Chapter 7:14. Lin's expression didn't change in the slightest upon seeing Su Wenjun. Everything was within his expectations. After all, he had tracked Dongguo's divine sense and knew that Su Wenjun was nearby. Su Wenjun was only a return to void intermediate stage mighty figure, so there was no way he could kill Lin. On the contrary, if a battle were to break out, it would be an all-out war between the 4-9 Immortal Sect and the Greenwood Imperial family. He was confident that Su Wenjun would know what to do. The other first-rate sects could take his phoenix egg and run, but where could the Greenwood Imperial family run to? Were they going to abandon the Purple Star State? The resources of an entire state were probably worth a lot more than the phoenix egg. Hence, Su Wenjun wasn't going to take this risk. Mr. Lin, what conditions would you have in exchange for releasing Dongguo? Su Wenjun looked at the man lying on the ground with a hint of respect on his face. Lin was quite pleased to be able to talk to sly old foxes like him. He didn't even have to say it out loud to know what conditions he was going to state. It's very simple. Swear a Dao Heart vow to protect the 4-9 Immortal Sect members from this place. Lin thought for a moment before replying. Once a Dao Heart vow was violated, an inner demon would appear, and it would be very difficult for one's cultivation base to progress. However, this vow wasn't very restrictive, and there were some mighty figures who could use certain methods to circumvent this restriction. No problem. Even if you didn't make this request, our Greenwood Imperial family would still be willing to escort our friends safely back to the outside world. Su Wenjun nodded with a smile. Lin thought about this for a moment before adding, also, get Dongguo to establish a slave contract with me. Dongguo immediately flared up upon hearing this. Didn't you say you didn't want me as a slave? Why have you changed your mind now? I've thought about it, and I feel like it's fine for you to become a lowly outer sect slave, Lin said with a solemn expression. PFFF. Dongguo threw up another mouthful of blood. What the F***ck was this? Was there such a thing in the cultivation world? Well. A conflicted expression appeared on Su Wenjun's face. Don't worry, I won't order this slave around. He can remain in the Greenwood Imperial family to serve me. I will only summon him for some special matters, Lin continued. Su Wenjun thought to himself, are they trying to infiltrate the Imperial family? However, this wasn't entirely unacceptable. At the very most, Dongguo wouldn't be allowed to come into contact with the core secrets of the sect, but he would still be able to serve as a top-notch fighter. He could also become a crucial link to the 4-9 Immortal Sect in the future. After all, the two forces did not necessarily have to oppose each other. It would naturally be best if it could be a win-win situation. If Princess Yunlu and Lin were to become one, then perhaps the two of them would become an inseparable force. Countless thoughts flashed through Su Wenjun's mind. You have to realize that Dongguo was a man who deserved to die anyway. He tried to kill me, so I naturally had to take some measures to protect myself. Lin looked down at Dongguo with a faint smile on his face. Dongguo was given quite a fright by Lin's sinister smile. Su Wenjun sighed and nodded. All right, I'm fine with it. He turned his gaze toward Dongguo. Divine General Dongguo, do you have any thoughts on this? Dongguo was extremely depressed. Su Wenjun had already agreed, so what else could he have? He would be screwed if he didn't establish a slave contract. Survival was the most important thing right now. Thus, everything was settled, and Su Wenjun swore a Dao Heart vow. Dongguo didn't need to swear a vow as Lin tossed a drop of blood toward him. Becoming a slave was more useful than any vow as it was the most powerful restriction. If a slave dared to do anything detrimental to their master, their Dao foundation would crumble, and they would suffer all sorts of terrifying backlash. Thus, Lin accepted a trash return to void stage slave. Dabai finally flew over from afar upon seeing this before slowly landing beside Lin. Big brotherin, is this going to be slave number 6 from now on? No, he's too weak, so he doesn't have a number, Anlin replied in an indifferent voice. Dongwu crawled to his feet with difficulty. Su Wenjun. By the way, Senior Su Wenjun, I'll have to trouble you to find and protect the members of my 4-9 immortal sect. We'll meet on this mountain, Anlin said. No problem, I'll do my best. Su Wenjun was going to find Su Xin and Su Qianyun anyway, so this was a very convenient task for him. Dongwu couldn't help but ask, "Why didn't you ask me to go? I can do it as well." Anlin shot a glance at Dongwu. You? Su Qianyun and Lu Qianhuan can also handle enemies that you can't handle. If Su Qianyun and Lu Qianhuan can't handle enemies that you can't handle, then what's the point of having you go? Pfff. Dongwu felt as if a sword had been stabbed into his heart again, and he threw up another mouthful of blood. Su Wenjun clasped his hands over his face. To think that a Greenwood Imperial family divine general would be reduced to such a pitiful state. Anlin was telling the truth. Lu Qianhuan and Su Qianyun could basically look down on all soul formation stage powerful beings. As for Xiao Zhe and Tina, they could kill Dongwu with a single hand. Was Dongwu going to protect them, or were they going to protect Dongwu? Su Wenjun and Anlin bade farewell before flying to other parts of this mystic realm. Dongwu swallowed a spirit pill before meditating on the spot to recover from his injuries. Anlin thought about it for a moment before deciding to lend the Blood Soul Jade Coffin to Dongwu in order to speed up his recovery. After all, Dongwu was wasting time, which meant that he was wasting Anlin's time as well. Dongwu was extremely envious at the sight of Anlin casually tossing out an immortal tool, but he didn't say anything as he obediently lay down on the coffin to recover from his injuries. A crimson light flashed for close to 10 kilometers, and the vitality of all plants within a radius of 5 kilometers was sucked away before flowing relentlessly toward Dongwu's body. Oh, I have to say, this is much more impressive than when you were recovering from your injuries, Dabai. Anlin poked fun at Anlin. Dongwu will probably only be able to prove that he's a return to void stage mighty figure when he's recovering from his injuries. Dongwu had just recovered from his injuries, but he almost sustained internal injuries again upon hearing Anlin's teasing. This master has abused me thousands of times, but I can only smile on my face. Dongwu's severed arm had already been reattached by Anlin. Return to void stage mighty figures possessed extremely powerful life forces, so reattaching an arm and healing it quickly wasn't a difficult task for them. Boom boom. The gargantuan mountain suddenly began to tremor slightly. Something's happening? Anlin unleashed his divine sense in a frenzy, and it instantly encompassed an area within a radius of over 150 kilometers. Such a large area naturally wasn't enough for him to detect minute details, but he was able to detect some general situations, such as powerful clashes of energy. Anlin turned his gaze toward a certain side of the gargantuan mountain. Over there. Let's go, Dabai. He immediately leaped onto Dabai's back and flew toward the location where the battle was taking place with the coffin in his hand. Anlin could sense a very familiar aura from the direction where the battle was taking place. Chapter 7:15. Dongwu crawled up from the coffin. Master, I'm fine now. He had almost fully recovered from his injuries, and he was in a hurry to get up. After all, he couldn't just lie in his coffin while his master fought with others. He still wanted his face. Anlin stowed the Blood Soul Jade Coffin away before instructing Dongwu, if a battle breaks out, make sure you protect Dabai. Dongwu's heart throbbed with grief. He was a return to void stage mighty figure, so why was he supposed to protect a dog? Soon, the three of them began to approach the battlefield. Vital energy surged violently here, and terrifying spell techniques would erupt from time to time, wreaking havoc in a radius of close to 10 kilometers. Anlin caught sight of the people engaged in battle. There was the handsome Bai Pingzi of the Flying Divine Sect, the cold Shuang Yukong of the Frosty Sun Immortal Sect, and the exquisitely beautiful celestial maiden Fei Ying of the Red Building Valley. The three of them seemed to be fighting over something, and heaven and earth were crumbling and mountains were crumbling. And Lin's brows furrowed. He didn't see the familiar aura emanating from that person. In the spacious area of the meandering mountain, a white brilliance was emitted. It formed a natural barrier, blocking the sweeping energy waves from the outside world. At the center of the white light, a massive black tree rose from the ground. There were 3 translucent fruits glowing with a snowy white divine light on the tree, and they were definitely high-rank immortal fruits. Aside from that, there was a massive azure python with a vast aura hiding behind the tree, trembling uncontrollably as it looked on at the battle taking place nearby. That python was most likely the guardian beast of the massive tree, and Lin had only just caught sight of the 3 people engaged in battle, and he didn't even get a chance to spectate before the 3 of them noticed Lin, and they immediately ceased their battle to stare at him with scorching light in their eyes. Everyone suddenly fell silent. Sorry for the interruption, you guys can continue. And Lin spoke with a sheepish expression. The 3 of them ignored him as they stared at the box on Lin's back with heavy breathing. Lin swallowed before clamping onto Dabai's stomach and fleeing into the distance. Go after him! Bai Pengzi transformed into a massive bird over 1,000 feet in size before flying toward Lin. Get lost, the phoenix egg is mine. Shuang Yukong clapped his hands together, and the space around him suddenly became a realm of extreme frost. A terrifying resistance limited Bai Pengzi's flight. A seductive smile appeared on celestial maiden Fei Ying's face as cherry blossoms danced in the air. She used the petals to clear a path, and her body instantly tore through the domain of extreme frost as she charged toward the 3 of them. In front of a phoenix egg, high-rank immortal fruits were nothing. The 3 of them changed their target to Lin and chased after the fleeing man without hesitation. Dongguo almost pissed himself upon seeing this. He was being chased by 3 return-to-void stage mighty figures. Why was it that he had to be chased down by Lin? Dongguo! Go stop them! Lin shouted. Dongguo instantly burst into tears upon hearing this. Master, I can't do it. He was only a rookie return-to-void stage mighty figure. How was he going to stop 3 veteran return-to-void stage mighty figures? Even if he risked his life, he wouldn't be able to stop it. What do I need you for? Lin's expression was one of exasperation. Dongguo immediately wrapped his arms around Dabai before accelerating into the distance. I can protect Dabai. Lin, Dabai. Lin's impression of Dongguo had been completely refreshed once again. However, he didn't say anything. After all, he didn't have high hopes for Dongguo in the first place. Under normal circumstances, if a return-to-void stage mighty figure decided to run away, then even return-to-void stage mighty figures with a higher cultivation base would find it very difficult to catch up to them. However, it was quite clear that this was not the case for the rookie return-to-void stage mighty figure Dongguo. The distance between Lin and the 3 return-to-void stage mighty figures was slowly shrinking. Sect leader Lin. Don't run so fast, wait for me. A seductive voice sounded. Celestial maiden Fei Ying flew toward them with a scorching and teasing expression on her face. Lin turned to look at her with a light chuckle. Come and catch me. If you catch me, I'll let you. A light blush appeared on celestial maiden Fei Ying's face, and her seductive eyes looked as if they were about to burst into tears. Wait for me, I'll be right there. She was just about to unleash a mystic technique to increase her speed when a snowball suddenly hurtled toward her. An extremely powerful sense of danger forced her to unleash all of her defensive powers as countless flower petals revolved around her to form a solid barrier. Boom! A scintillating light suddenly erupted from the snowball, and a terrifying energy exploded forth imbued with the power of extreme frost, freezing the space within a radius of 5 kilometers. Lin had used his final trump card, the snow explosion ball, here. The terrifying power of the explosion enshrouded celestial maiden Fei Ying, Bai Pengzi, and Shuang Yukong as heaven and earth were transformed into a violent blue color. All three of them were caught off guard, and were swept up by the explosion before being inundated by a sea of energy. Even if this attack couldn't severely wound them, it would at least slow them down. It had to be said, the effect was quite obvious. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying was slightly injured, and the other two were also knocked flying for a distance. Lin took advantage of this opportunity to open up a distance of several dozen kilometers between himself and them. You're still 10,000 years too early to catch me. Lin turned to the disheveled trio with a mocking smile. Aside from Xiaolan, no one in this world can catch me. Dongguo was astonished. Who's Xiaolan? She's so powerful. Xiaolan is Big Brother An's Dao partner-to-be, woof. Dabai interjected. Dongguo. So this was what he meant by catching up to them? As expected, Lin's words were not something that normal people could fathom. Rumble, a golden ball of energy suddenly swept toward Lin from the front. This ball of energy had an extremely peculiar appearance, and it caused the three of them to falter in their tracks. The golden yellow energy formed her face. Her round face was adorable, and her curled lips were proud but not delicate. Her slightly blushing cheeks made people feel infinite warmth. Her right eyes were filled with joy, and it made people's imaginations run wild. She raised her eyebrows to hide her achievements and fame. Slippery? Comical? Lin felt like he had seen a ghost. A huge comical face was flying toward him. Wait, look at the top of the image. That's Duan Hunzi from the Life Harvesting sect. Dongguo yelled. Lin focused his gaze to find Duan Hunzi standing on top of the comical face. Duan Hunzi had his chest puffed out and was charging toward them with a smug expression. Lin's expression darkened upon seeing this, and 10,000 mythological beasts stampeded over his heart. What the hell was wrong with this guy? What was there to be smug about standing on top of the comical face? Oh? Isn't that sect leader Lin? Ha ha. As expected, my luck has improved after I put on the smile of the death god. This phoenix egg is mine. Duan Hunzi's voice was as loud as a bell as he charged toward Lin atop the comical face. Lin's chest constricted upon hearing the smile of the death god. Did this guy have some kind of misunderstanding about comical faces? He didn't even have time to sigh with emotion as he immediately fled in another direction. Cold sweat was already pouring down Lin's forehead. Aside from Duan Hunzi, the other three auras were also closing in on him. At this moment, he was being pursued by 4 return-to-void stage mighty figures. If he couldn't find any allies, he would be screwed. Chapter 7:16. Master, what do we do now? Dongguo looked behind him with an anxious expression to find that Dabai had already transformed into his miniature form and was lying on his head. Aren't you a return-to-void stage mighty figure? You're asking a soul formation stage cultivator like me what to do? Lin snapped. Dongguo. Lin heaved a forlorn sigh. All we can do now is find the 4-9 Immortal sect and Greenwood Imperial family before they catch up to us. Otherwise, we're all screwed. Kacha, another spatial rift appeared in front of him. Lin and Dongguo immediately fled in another direction. Return-to-void stage mighty figures could teleport to a fixed location, and the time it took for them to tear open a spatial rift was more than enough for Lin and the others to get very far away. As such, it was better to just fly. When Shuang Yukong stepped out of the spatial rift, Lin and the others had already become a black dot in the distance. Shuang Yukong harumphed coldly before transforming into a frosty aura and giving chase again. Lin and the others changed their escape routes from time to time, playing a game of cat and mouse with the 4 mighty figures. However, no matter how much they struggled, they were unable to widen the gap between them. Instead, they were drawing closer and closer. We can't do this, Master. We won't be able to get away if things continue like this. Dongguo was getting more and more anxious. It was as if they were counting down to their death. Lin didn't say anything. he didn't continue his exploration. Instead, he flew toward the other side of the mountain. Within the mountain, Lin sensed that familiar burst of energy again, but it was only for a fleeting moment, so he couldn't sense it very clearly. Right now, he could only give it a try. He couldn't care so much anymore. If it was her, perhaps she could help him. He's flying toward this gargantuan mountain? Isn't he just committing suicide? Duan Hunzi chortled as he flew toward Lin atop his comical face. The other three mighty figures were also ecstatic upon seeing this, and they all locked onto Lin before unleashing their own techniques in pursuit. Master, why are you still flying toward the mountain? There's a boundless mountain in our way, and it's not going to be easy to dodge. Donghua spoke with an urgent expression. Cut the crap, just follow me, Lin said impatiently. So, as Lin and the others flew around the massive mountain, the group of cultivators closed the distance between them. Duan Hunzi unleashed a soul slash that resembled a black scimitar. However, Lin managed to dodge it in time. Yes, it's here. Lin saw a very large cave entrance. Through the expansion of his divine sense, he found that there were many passageways inside. He dove into the cave without any hesitation, and Donghua gritted his teeth as he followed closely behind him. Right now, Donghua had no other choice but to follow closely behind Lin. The temperature in the pitch-black cave was extremely high. After Lin flew for several hundred meters, the temperature had already reached 100 degrees. Big brother, this place is so strange. Woof. Dabai couldn't help but bark. As they went deeper, a faint green light began to appear in the space inside. The green light was emitted by the rocks, and it reflected the jagged stone walls inside. Love is a beam of light, and it's so green that it's terrifying. Donghua turned to Lin with a hint of resentment on his face as he spoke, as if this was the final retaliation of a man who had been cheated on. Shut up. Hurry up and conceal your auras to avoid detection by the enemy's divine sense. Lin yelled. Everyone immediately concealed their auras. Vision was very limited in the inky black cave, and as long as they could conceal their auras to avoid detection by Return to Void stage mighty figures, it would be very difficult for Return to Void stage mighty figures to discover where they were. Soon, Lin arrived at the passageway leading to the cave entrance. There are so many paths, which one do we go? Donghua asked in a panicked voice. Lin recalled the general direction in which he had detected their auras before pointing toward a small cave entrance. This way. At this moment, Duan Hunzi arrived at the cave entrance first, and the huge comical face crashed into the cave entrance before exploding. Oh, my smile of the death god, you disappeared into the cave. I'll avenge you. I'm going to capture Lin and sacrifice him to the heavens. Duan Hunzi roared with grief. Soon, Bai Pengzi, Celestial Maiden Feiying, and Shuang Yukong all arrived at the cave entrance. Oh? You sure are an interesting man. Don't let me catch you if you're playing hide-and-seek in a cave. A seductive smile appeared on Celestial Maiden Feiying's face. However, her eyes instantly turned a vibrant red, and it was as if her gaze could pierce through the darkness and all things. You're just putting up a last-ditch struggle. Bai Pengzi flew through the air like the wind and charged forward without any hesitation. Shuang Yukong also transformed into a streak of white light and charged forward, unwilling to fall behind. All four of them were a little hesitant after arriving at the passageway leading to the cave entrance. Duan Hunzi waved a hand through the air, and countless wandering souls surged toward each passageway. There were at least 3 wandering souls in each passageway. Bai Pengzi pulled out a divination tool and waved it through the air before flying toward one of the passageways. Shuang Yukong was extremely sensitive to temperature, and he hesitated momentarily before flying toward one of the small passageways. Celestial Maiden Feiying stood on the spot, and a faint light shimmered in her eyes as she surveyed her surroundings. After a short while, she made her way toward one of the passageways. Lin and Donghua quickly flew forward, and for some reason, the green light around them became brighter and brighter. Even the temperature had risen significantly, as if they were approaching a furnace. Big Brotherin, are you sure we'll encounter allies if we go further in? Woof. Dabai was a little uneasy. Don't worry, I can sense her aura, so there's no mistaking it, Unlin consoled in a gentle voice. Dongwa heaved a faint sigh of relief upon hearing this, but at the same time, he was also feeling a little displeased and aggrieved. Why was Master so much gentler to a dog than to him? Was this some kind of *T series? Hiss! A dark green rock snake abruptly sprang out from the darkness before biting toward the miniature Dabai on Dongwa's head. Whoosh! A dazzling sword projection instantly sliced the rock snake in half. Dongwa sheathed his sword before turning to Enlin with a smug expression on his face. However, he was greeted by the sight of an expressionless face. Most importantly, there was a look of disdain in Enlin's eyes, as if he were looking at an idiot. Not only Enlin, but even Dabai heaved a forlorn sigh as it stroked Dongwa's head with its paw. What is it? Dongwa was a little confused. If you attack without any scruples like this, there will be a lot of energy fluctuations. What will you do if the pursuing enemy detects it? Woof. Dabai replied. Dongwa, why didn't he think of this? Even a dog is more thoughtful than you. Sigh, you're hopeless. Unlin sighed with a disappointed expression. Dongwa's body swayed slightly, and he felt extremely uncomfortable. He really wanted to retort, but there was no F***king way to do so. After traveling for a while longer, the passageway became wider and wider. Finally, they arrived in front of a palace with green flames burning within it. The metal gate leading into the palace was tightly shut, and a silver figure appeared before Enlin. Chapter 7:17. Enlin and Dabai were both dumbstruck at the sight of the silver figure. Big Brotherin, am I seeing things? How could this be? Woof. Dabai was extremely excited. You're not seeing things, this is it. Enlin took a deep breath before replying. Dongwa stared at the man and dog with a dumbstruck expression. Why couldn't he understand what they were saying? Gundam 1, Gundam 2, your brother is here. Enlin spoke with excitement in his voice. That's right, the silver figure standing before them was none other than the intelligent robot created from the fusion of bloodline and technology. The silver figure turned toward Enlin and the others, and a smile suddenly appeared on its face. All those who approach this place must die. Bam! The sound of air exploding suddenly erupted. Then, right before the astonished eyes of Enlin, Dongwa, and Dabai, the silver Gundam instantly appeared before Dongwa, and a blue light erupted from the back of its arm as its fist crashed into Dongwa's chest like a cannonball. Boom! The air was twisted and warped by the force of the fist as it swept toward Dongwa with mountain-toppling force. And then, right before Enlin's astonished eyes, Dongwa was blasted flying by a single punch. Holy F***ck. Are our Gundams this powerful? Woof! Dabai yelled as he ran. Enlin positioned himself in front of Dabai, and at this moment, the silver Gundam had already unleashed a fist upon Enlin. Enlin had already activated his divine inspection technique, and he was only just barely able to detect the trajectory of the fist. He unleashed his mountain-quaking fist to take the attack head-on, and the collision of the two fists resulted in an explosion of energy that reduced the rock face within a radius of 100 feet to dust. Terrifying power coursed through Enlin's arm before sweeping through his entire body, forcing him to stumble back in retreat. Is this really the same F***king Gundam as the Gundams? Enlin stared at the humanoid robot before him with astonishment on his face as a numb sensation ran through his arm. This power was already comparable to that of a return-to-void stage mighty figure. The Silver Gundam was just about to follow up with another attack when Sword Chi suddenly swept through the entire space. An azure sword projection tore through the air, piercing toward the Silver Gundam's chest with boundless power. Dongwa finally unleashed his full power this time. This was the full power strike of a return-to-void stage mighty figure, and it was powerful enough to tear through space and annihilate all things. He planned to use this sword to take down Gundam. The silver Gundam didn't dodge or evade. It just stretched out its palm, and then a blue ion deprivation light screen instantly enveloped its entire body. As the ripples circulated, it released a harmonious and perfect luster unique to technology. The sword light pierced the ionic light curtain, and an extremely terrifying hissing sound erupted. The extremely sharp sword light even tore a small crack in the surrounding space. However, such a terrifying sword slash was unable to cause any damage to the ion isolation light curtain. How could this be? Dongwa stared at the scenes unfolding before him with incredulity on his face. He was a peerless sword immortal, yet he couldn't even deal with a mechanical puppet? His voice had only just fallen when the silver Gundam materialized an extremely dazzling blue sword of light, which it slashed toward Dongwa at an extremely fast speed. Dongwa raised his sword to defend himself. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the blink of an eye, the Gundam and Dongwa unleashed over 100 sword strikes at the same time. Sword chi swept through the air as a fearsome sword net sliced through space and annihilated all things. Dongwa became more and more shocked as the battle progressed. The mechanical puppets' sword techniques weren't stiff in the slightest. Instead, they were extremely intricate, and each and every one of its attacks was imbued with the true intent of the sword. It was as if a peerless sword immortal were wielding a sword. Whoosh! A mysterious and intricate sword projection pierced through all of Dongwa's defenses and instantly punctured his lower abdomen. Dongwa hurtled back in retreat as he stared at the silver Gundam with shock on his face. He couldn't defeat this mechanical puppet. He couldn't even defeat this mechanical puppet. Unlin immediately charged forward and unleashed his evil-slaying sword upon seeing that Dongwa was no match for it. Bam bam bam! Unlin unleashed his endless night sword technique from the get-go. The entire space was enshrouded in darkness as sword projections transformed into black streaks of light that swept through the air. His peerlessly domineering sword techniques were able to keep the Silver Gundam's sword projection at bay. The Silver Gundam suddenly opened its cavernous mouth as it swung its sword through the air upon seeing that its particle sword projection was ineffective against Unlin. Boom! Dark purple dragon flames erupted forth with the power to engulf all things, instantly melting the rock formations within a radius of several hundred meters. Unlin was caught off guard and was also engulfed by the flames. Thankfully, his skin was quite thick. If he were a normal soul formation stage cultivator, he would have been reduced to a puff of smoke by the dark purple dragon flames. Unlin stumbled back in retreat. Cough cough. Holy F***ck, the power of these flames is on a completely different level. So my Gundams really are fakes? No. A thought suddenly flashed through his mind as a thought occurred to him. Could it be that the Gundams were enhanced in this space? Come on out, my Gundams! Unlin's storage ring flashed, and 2 imposing humanoid Gundams appeared in this world. Kill it for me. Unlin pointed at the Silver Gundam and issued a command. The Gundams that hadn't shown themselves for a long time finally had a chance to shine. They charged toward the Silver Gundam with boundless might. 2-on-1, we can win. One of the Gundams used a particle sword while the other controlled gravity, creating a seamless combination. However, they had only just begun to attack when the Silver Gundam had already appeared in front of them. Its fists flashed with black lightning imbued with the power of annihilation as they crashed toward the 2 Gundams. Boom! An earth-shattering boom erupted as the metal bodies of the Gundams were dented, and they flew back like cannonballs before embedding themselves into the rock formations of the mountain. Unlin, my Gundams are fakes after all. In reality, Unlin could more or less guess why. Back when he was in the Greenwood Imperial family, Professor Yang, who had given him the Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 energy cores, had told him that the energy cores he had created could only activate about 20% of the puppet's abilities, which meant that this silver mechanical puppet that could insta-kill the two Gundams was most likely the real Gundam. Why would a purple star mechanical puppet appear here? And Lin didn't have time to figure this out. All he wanted to do now was subdue this Gundam before him and get behind the bronze gate. Yo, it looks like it's quite lively here, hee. Do you need my help, big brother? A crisp voice with a hint of flirtatiousness suddenly rang out. And Lin and Dong's hearts jolted in unison as they turned toward the cave they had come from. A gorgeous woman with a graceful figure enshrouded in light flew toward them, but her eyes were glued to Lin's body. Sect leader Lin, I've caught up to you. This was none other than the sect leader of the Red Building Valley, Celestial Maiden Fei Ying. Chapter 7:18. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying was the first to discover Lin's presence, and she didn't want to waste any more time talking. The battle here had most likely already attracted the attention of other mighty figures. Big brother, I've already won your heart. Can you give me a small reward? Celestial Maiden Fei Ying turned to Lin as she spoke. It's over, master, we've been surrounded. Dongguo exclaimed in shock. Shut up and focus on the enemy. Lin snapped. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying turned to Dongguo with a surprised expression. The mighty divine general of the Greenwood Imperial family has become Lin's slave? That's interesting. Dongguo pursed his lips as he grumbled in his heart. If you knew that Lin still despised a slave like me, you'd probably find it even more interesting. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying strode toward Lin with red tassels dancing around her body, leaving a series of sharp trajectories in the air. Her beauty was imbued with killing intent. The silver Gundam also drew closer and closer, and a dazzling light erupted from its particle sword. Enemy target changed. Charge. The Gundam's slightly mechanical voice rang out, without the slightest hint of emotion. Then, right before Lin and Dongguo's astonished eyes, the Gundam flew toward Celestial Maiden Fei Ying as a blue particle sword projection extended for over 1,000 feet. Fei Ying's expression shifted as she positioned her hands in front of her to protect herself. Boom! The sword projection clashed with the cherry blossoms, and countless cherry blossoms were reduced to dust by the particle sword projection. However, the cherry blossoms continued to pour in, and they managed to keep the attack at bay. This sudden turn of events had both Lin and Dongguo astonished. My God, why is the mechanical puppet attacking her? Dongguo was perplexed. Lin rolled his eyes. Do you know why the mechanical puppet is attacking us? Dongguo was rendered speechless again. Let's get out of here. There's no point in asking these questions. Let's take advantage of the chaos to get out of here, Lin urged. Lin stowed away the two Gundams and rushed toward the bronze gate with Dabai in tow. There were many stone tablets engraved with strange characters around the hall, and there were many green chains on the top of the walls. Those chains seemed to be made of some special metal, and they had an extremely strong fastening effect. It was also thanks to those chains that this place didn't collapse even after such a fierce battle. Dongguo rushed over to push the door open with all his might, only to find that the door seemed to have been sealed shut by some kind of terrifying power. He began to tear open space and tried to use spatial leap to enter the interior, only to find that the interior was isolated from the outside world. Hua! Dongguo slashed out a sword projection that was powerful enough to tear through space. The sword light landed on the bronze door, and a terrifying explosion sounded out. The bronze door trembled, but it still did not break. What the hell is this bronze door? This is definitely not a bronze door. Lin was shocked. This gate seems to have been imbued with some kind of power of laws. Unless one has mastered the power of the divine Tao, it will be very difficult to break through, Dongguo said with a grave expression. Let's see if there are any mechanisms that can open this gate, Lin suggested. The three of them immediately began to wander around the hall in search of something special. Don't even think about getting away, a woman's delicate cry suddenly sounded. A terrifying tornado of cherry blossoms enshrouded the silver Gundam before slicing it apart. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying transformed into a streak of pink light before pouncing toward Lin and the others. She was a return to void intermediate stage mighty figure, after all, so dealing with a silver Gundam was no problem for her. She didn't want to let the phoenix egg that was right in front of her slip away again. A green sword projection surged forth like a massive wave, but a pink crescent moon materialized in Celestial Maiden Fei Ying's hand, which sliced Dongguo's boundless sword projection in half. Fei Ying didn't stop there as she continued to charge toward Lin. Cherry Blossom Killing Formation, Thousand Flower Burial. Tens of thousands of cherry blossoms erupted with a crimson light, exuding a sinister killing intent. They swept toward Lin from all directions. Each and every petal possessed the power to slice through space, and the countless cherry blossoms created an absolute killing formation that left Lin with no chance to evade. This was Celestial Maiden Fei Ying's true killing technique, and her objective was to kill Lin with a single strike. So what if he was more powerful than Dongguo? Even 10 Dongguos wouldn't be able to escape from this attack. Black energy erupted from Lin's body as his aura began to soar explosively. Origin energy of the netherworld. At the same time, a massive sun appeared in the sky from which boundless flames burst forth. Boundless purple flames enshrouded heaven and earth as starlight fell from the sky. Blue flames imbued with the power of burning ice swept through the ground like massive waves. Invisible heavenly void flames were omnipresent, incinerating everything within this space. The great holy flame, demonic star flame, setting moon flame, and heavenly void flame appeared at once to form a sea of divine flames that could incinerate all things. Boom! The entire space was engulfed by terrifying flames. Crimson cherry blossoms clashed with the flames, and the resulting shockwaves caused the space around them to tremor and crumble. Fei Ying was also forced back a few steps by the terrifying flames, and her expression shifted drastically as she immediately unleashed a defensive barrier around herself. Lin held the high-rank immortal tool Divine Flame Bead in his hand, and a golden flaming dragon swam out from within it. The dragon was like a fish in water within the sea of divine flames, and its aura became even more terrifying as golden scales appeared to have materialized on its body. Roar! The golden flaming dragon let loose an enraged roar as its flaming body broke through the layers of cherry blossoms before pouncing toward the woman. What? You can still retaliate? Celestial Maiden Fei Ying didn't think that a soul formation stage cultivator would be able to do this. Not only was he able to contend with her killing technique, but he still had the power to retaliate? Wasn't he a little too powerful? Celestial Maiden Fei Ying made a hand seal to summon a divine spirit with a white shield in its hand. Boom! The golden flaming dragon crashed into the shield, and waves of flames instantly pulverized all of the cherry blossoms around it, creating a vacuum. Crack! The sound of something shattering erupted, and the shield was showing signs of crumbling. What terrifying power! Celestial Maiden Fei Ying made a few more hand seals in shock. Boom, 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 3 shields materialized in front of her. However, it was also at this moment that the golden dragon disappeared. The sea of divine flames also disappeared. Lin panted heavily as he stood on the spot before swallowing a blood spirit pill. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying looked at the 3 shields before her, and she felt like she had been deceived. It was also at this moment that the silver Gundam broke through Fei Ying's trapping formation before slashing its particle sword toward her again. Are you all right, Master? Dongguo ran toward Lin. I'm fine. Lin waved a hand before looking around at the palace, which had been reduced to nothingness by the divine flames, with only a series of azure chains remaining. I don't think there are any traps left. If there really were any F*King traps, they would have all been destroyed. Should we run in the opposite direction? Dongguo suggested. There was no path forward, so they could only run back. We have another choice. Lin murmured to himself as he looked at Celestial Maiden Fei Ying. Kill her while she's down. Woof! Dabai yelled with excitement. Dongguo understood. 3 against 1, Hee. Chapter 719. The Silver Gundam's overall combat prowess was roughly equivalent to that of a veteran Return to Void initial stage mighty figure, while Celestial Maiden Fei Ying was at the Return to Void intermediate stage, so the Gundam was at a disadvantage. However, if Enlin and Dongguo were to join the fray, the situation would be completely different. There was a limit to a cultivator's power, and Fei Ying was a little fatigued after a few rounds of continuous battles. How long would she be able to last if she was attacked by multiple enemies? Demon girl, hand over your life! Enlin roared loudly as he circulated the Endless Night sword technique with all his might, and he slashed out numerous shocking black rainbow sword lights. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying unleashed her flying flower dance steps to evade the sword projections as a frosty expression appeared on her face. The thing I hate the most in my life is people calling me demonic woman. Finished speaking, she turned her body and used the Imperial Thousand Flowers as a blade, slashing out a dazzling half-arc. The momentum of this attack was extremely great, and the energy contained within it caused space to tremble. Moreover, it carried with it a murderous intent that caused the surrounding air to suddenly freeze. Enlin and the Silver Gundam were both struck by the saber and were instantly sent flying hundreds of meters away. Unfortunately, they were all people with thick skin and thick flesh, so they were completely unscathed after taking a direct hit. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying turned to look at Enlin with a dumbstruck expression. She could understand why the Silver Gundam's defensive prowess was so high, but why did a Soul Formation stage cultivator have such high defensive prowess as well? This didn't make sense. Just as she was in a daze, a sword light that contained an extremely strong sword intent pierced through the barrier of flowers and pierced towards her heart. Dongguo had been waiting for this opportunity for a very long time. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying had yet to recover from her previous attack, and her mind was slightly distracted, which was when he unleashed his sword to seal the deal. Get lost! Celestial Maiden Fei Ying waved her sleeves through the air with an extremely impatient expression. Her pink sleeves danced through the air like clouds, and as they were pulverized by Dongguo's longsword, she suddenly switched from a gentle stance to an extremely forceful one. She evaded the trajectory of Dongguo's sword at an extremely difficult angle before striking Dongguo's chest. Rumble! His sleeve was like a heaven-shattering sledgehammer, and Dongguo's chest caved in. Pfff! Dongguo threw up a mouthful of blood as he hurtled back in retreat. Dreams were plentiful, but reality was as simple as reality. Never would Dongguo have thought that his decisive strike would result in him being severely wounded and forced to retreat. At this moment, Enlin and the Silver Gundam had already pounced towards Celestial Maiden Fei Ying, unleashing a relentless barrage of spell techniques. If it weren't for this tactic, Dongguo would most likely be dead already. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying was becoming more and more impatient. She was unable to take down Enlin due to the obstruction of the Silver Gundam and Dongguo. Not only that, but with the continuous high-intensity battles, the power in her body had gradually weakened. If she continued to fight, she would very likely lose. She was the first person to catch up to Enlin, so how could Fei Ying allow herself to miss the Phoenix Egg again? With a ruthless expression, she bit the tip of her tongue and was about to use some kind of secret technique that required a price. Oh? So it was here? Found you, he. A voice as cold and gloomy as if it had come from the nine hells, its hoarse voice carrying a bone-piercing chill. Fei Ying hurtled back in retreat, and three black ghostly faces suddenly appeared within the palace with sinister smiles on their faces. Duan Hunzi, it's you? Fei Ying's brows furrowed as she spoke. That's right, it's me. The three ghostly faces chortled with glee. One of the ghostly faces mocked. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying and sect leader Enlin fought for 800 rounds, giving me the perfect opportunity to strike, haha. Enlin's expression darkened. What the hell was going on? The second ghostly face spoke. Stay where you are and don't move. I'm coming with the smile of the death god. The third ghostly face chuckled. Wait for a minute, maybe in the next minute. Boom! And Lin immediately unleashed a mountain-quaking fist to pulverize the three ghostly faces. Nice one. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying clapped her hands together with a seductive smile. All bad guys who interrupt our flirting must die. And Lin, no matter how he looked at it, Celestial Maiden Fei Ying looked like a seductive woman. Why did she dislike people calling her a seductive woman? However, the ghostly faces had only just exploded when sinister winds began to howl from within the massive hole. Ha ha! These little brats really don't know any manners these days. They're going to beat my little soul to death for no reason. Looks like I'll have to teach them a lesson. Duan Hunzi arrived on a gigantic comical face. His silver hair danced in the wind, and there was a deranged and wanton expression on his face. And Lin's lips twitched at the sight of the comical face. What the hell is wrong with this guy? Master, another return to Void Intermediate Stage enemy has arrived. We can't beat him, what do we do? Dongguo's features paled with fear, and he was suddenly struck by the urge to retreat as he looked at the approaching Duan Hunzi. We do have to find a way to escape. Lin nodded. Dongguo felt a little more confident upon seeing Lin's calm expression. Lin turned to him and asked, Dongguo, what do you think? Dongguo faltered upon hearing this. What do I think? How the F***ck are we supposed to escape? Are you asking me? Lin heaved a resigned sigh at the sight of Dongguo's dumbstruck expression. For some reason, he suddenly thought of Tang Shimin. At this moment, Fei Ying and Duan Hunzi had already pounced toward Lin. Both of them were unleashing their full power, and they were determined to secure the phoenix egg before anyone else arrived. One of them swept through the air with his blood-kill cherry blossoms, while the other sliced through space with his divine sense saber. Lin and Dongguo both chose to retreat at the same time, but to their surprise, the Silver Gundam took the initiative to meet them. It spread its arms open, and a blue ionic deprivation light barrier kept the attacks of the two return to Void Stage mighty figures at bay. Boom boom boom, an extremely terrifying collision of energy caused the space within a radius of over a kilometer to tremor violently. Everything within a radius of over a kilometer was reduced to dust, and the sealed space around them was completely shattered. Lin, Dabai, and Dongguo were blasted flying by the shockwave before crashing into the bronze gate. However, to everyone's surprise, the indestructible gate was smashed open by 3 people and a dog. Lin, Dabai, and Dongguo were dumbstruck. They seemed to have seen the Silver Gundam turn around to look at them. The bronze gate then immediately closed again, sealing off their pursuers. Fei Ying and Duan Hunzi were also dumbstruck. Holy F***ck, how did the gate open? The two of them immediately unleashed all of their power to break through the Silver Gundam's defenses before transforming into streaks of powerful light that crashed toward the bronze gate. Boom! The two of them were knocked dizzy by the impact, but the gate didn't budge in the slightest. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying, Duan Hunzi. The Silver Gundam pounced toward the two of them again with its particle sword in hand, only to be slammed into the gate by the enraged duo. Hia! Duan Hunzi unleashed a dark dragon cannon blast, and the Gundam's alloy skeleton began to creak and crack. Amidst the energy explosion, a crack suddenly appeared on the door. The Gundam was blasted into the crack, and then the door quickly closed again. Everyone suddenly fell silent. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying, Duan Hunzi. Chapter 720. Tina was extremely proficient in the Tao of space, so she was the first to detect the spatial swap. Unfortunately, the spatial swap was far too powerful, and even she was unable to resist it. She was only able to utter a single word of warning before she was sucked into this mystic realm. The mystic realm was very large, and it was equivalent to a small world. The sky of this world was very orbiting, and it was filled with expressions that did not seem to understand. Tina smiled in the direction of the mysterious smile in the sky. She looked into the mirror to find that her eyes were in place, but her smile wasn't as wide. However, it was still quite fun. There was a hint of natural mockery in its cuteness, and she really liked this expression. However, Tina quickly put away her playful thoughts. She knew that there was something very important that she had to do, and that was to find Giant Unlin as soon as possible. Unlin was carrying an egg on his back, so he was definitely going to be beaten up by everyone. Tina had to go protect him. Thus, Tina spread her wings and flew into the distance. The place she appeared in was a boundless crimson land. However, the scorching temperatures didn't render this place barren. Instead, it gave birth to many fire-type creatures. There were demonic vines spewing flames, blood trees with vibrant colors, and huge beasts enshrouded in flames. The little fairy felt like her horizons had been broadened greatly. She even slew a few flaming birds and a flaming demonic dragon before stowing them away into her storage ring. These were the ingredients for the frying pan. These were fire-type meats, so they would definitely be very delicious if they were cooked in a frying pan with some chili peppers. Tina was probably the only one who was still thinking about ingredients among all the living beings that had entered this mystic realm. Tina wandered around aimlessly, and before she knew it, she had arrived at the center of the mystic realm. There, she saw the massive phoenix diagram that was constructed from a series of cracks in the ground. Wow, it's so majestic! It's so big! Tina exclaimed in amazement as her emerald eyes blinked. A thought suddenly occurred to her. If the phoenix egg that Giant Unlin had snatched from her could grow to be as big as Tina's, then it would be fun. From a rough estimate, the phoenix was several dozen kilometers in length. This meant that if a phoenix of this size were to fall from the sky, it would be able to destroy a large city. Now that I think about it, it doesn't seem that fun anymore. It's cuter if it's smaller, Tina murmured as her thoughts began to drift away again. Right at this moment, Tina detected an extremely faint spatial tremor. She was extremely sensitive to space, so this anomaly did not escape her perception. Tina turned toward the gargantuan mountain in the distance. Is it over there? It must be a battle between Return to Void stage mighty figures, right? She tore through space and leaped towards the giant mountain without hesitation. Katja, somewhere on the giant mountain, an extremely petite elf tore through space and arrived in this world. Are they going to stop fighting so soon? She looked around curiously, trying to find a trace of him. Boom, boom, boom. The sounds of battle could be heard from afar. Tina flew toward that direction excitedly, only to discover that two groups of soul formation stage powerful beings were fighting over something halfway up the mountain. Oh, and there was also a huge azure python with a powerful aura. It was currently standing in front of a tree and had swallowed a cultivator into its stomach. What was most surprising to Tina was that there was a huge black tree behind the azure python. There were 3 translucent fruits glowing with snowy white divine light on the tree, and they were definitely high-rank immortal fruits. The Flying Divine Sect, the Frosty Sun Immortal Sect, and the Azure Python were engaged in a 3-way battle. It was quite clear that 2 of them were here to steal something, but their leader wasn't here. The Azure Python was responsible for guarding the item, and it was quite powerful at the Soul Formation Pinnacle stage. The immortal fruits were being guarded by it. Perhaps it would even have a chance to eat those cultivators. Tina's eyes immediately lit up at the sight of this treasure, perhaps because she had been with Lin for a long time. Isn't this something that belongs to me? I'm taking it. I'm taking it all. Tina's figure abruptly flashed forward to arrive at the battlefield. With a spread of both her hands, a white square instantly appeared within a radius of 1,000 meters. The cultivators and pythons within the square were all bound up by a terrifying spatial shackle. The cultivators of the Flying Divine Sect and the Frosty Sun Immortal Sect were astonished as they stared at the uninvited guest before them with shock and horror. Why did a Return to Void stage mighty figure suddenly appear in the middle of a battle? And it was Tina from the 4-9 Immortal Sect no less. It's over. The fat meat that was in their hands was snatched away just like that. The group of cultivators wanted to cry but had no tears. The azure python was trembling uncontrollably. Why did a return to void stage mighty figure appear so soon after the three extremely fearsome mighty figures had left? F***ck off. How was it supposed to guard the immortal fruits now that so many terrifying beings had appeared? There was a massive disparity in power between the guardian beast and the invaders. It was already a miracle that it could even survive. Just as the azure python was trembling uncontrollably, Tina flapped her golden wings and hummed a little tune as she flew toward the huge black tree before plucking the fruits. She murmured to herself as she plucked the fruits: 1 immortal fruit, 2 immortal fruits, 3 immortal fruits. Success. Tina has also had a miraculous encounter. All of the cultivators and the python instantly had tears streaming down their faces. This was no King miraculous encounter. This was robbery. This was robbery. After plucking the fruits, a thought suddenly occurred to Tina, and she released the spatial seal on the azure python. Let me ask you, how often does this tree bear fruits? Tell me the truth, or I'll cut you down with my sword. The azure python shuddered in fear, and it seemed to have guessed Tina's intentions as it replied in a trembling voice: This tree bears immortal fruits once every 10,000 years, and it can only be nurtured using the energy of this divine mountain. It can't be nurtured anywhere else. Tina instantly lost interest upon hearing that it would take so long to nurture the fruit. At this moment, the azure python hesitated momentarily before issuing a warning: I advise you to return the immortal fruits to me. Otherwise, you're going to piss off someone you can't afford to piss off. Who is it? Tina asked. She's the ruler of this world, Black Spirit Snake. The azure python threatened. Oh, I don't know her. Tina stowed the immortal fruits into her storage ring with elation. The azure python. She planted these immortal fruits here, so you'd better return them. I don't know why she hasn't appeared yet, but if she finds out about this, you'll face the harshest punishment. The azure python was still not giving up on its threat. Oh, then I'll just return the immortal fruits to her when she comes to find me, Tina replied with a dainty smile. The azure python had no response to this and could only glare at Tina with rage. That's all for now. I still have to find Giant and Lin. Bye-bye. Tina left just as silently as she had arrived. She waved a sleeve and took the 3 immortal fruits with her. Chapter 721. And Lin, Donghua, and Dabai had somehow stumbled into the interior of the bronze gate. Donghua looked around at the flat ground and walls, as well as the green flames that burned like lanterns along the way. Master, I feel like there's something fishy going on here. And Lin rolled his eyes. Do you really like to spout nonsense? He was really starting to wonder how Donghua had managed to survive for the past several thousand years. Could it be that his obsession with cultivation had damaged his brain? Of course, Donghua's combat prowess wasn't all that bad. Aside from the fact that he didn't have any negative feelings toward Enlin, everything else was fine. Why did that silver Gundam try to kill us before suddenly helping us? It's most likely being controlled by someone, right? We were able to come in here because that person was controlling the bronze gate, right? Donghua continued. That's most likely what she did. A smile appeared on Enlin's face as he nodded. As for the silver Gundam's strange actions, it was most likely trying to play a prank on us or test our strength or something like that. Donghua. Alright, that's a little far-fetched, but that's the only explanation. Enlin waved a hand before making his way forward. In any case, we made the right decision to come here. Let's go and meet our ally. Donghua trailed along beside Enlin with a curious expression. Master, who is this ally you've been talking about? Is it Tina or Xiaoza? Enlin shook his head. It's neither of them. It's a woman, and she's no weaker than Xiaoza or Tina. I don't know why she suddenly erupted with such powerful energy fluctuations that allowed me to sense her aura. However, I can be sure that she's doing something big in here. So she's doing something big? That's very exciting, woof. Dabai's eyes lit up, and he looked like he was itching to join in on the fun. The three of them continued onward, and the temperature continued to rise from just over 200 degrees to close to 1,000 degrees. At this point, even the rocks on the ground were glowing red. "My God, I feel like I'm walking toward a crematorium to self-destruct," Dongguo exclaimed. And Lin looked at the man beside him speechlessly. "What are you thinking about all day long? Can't you be quiet?" Dongguo smiled sheepishly and didn't say anything. It was not difficult for him to be a quiet, handsome man. To be honest, he could also be regarded as a real handsome man. His domineering level was a little lower than Enlin's, but in terms of appearance, he still suppressed Enlin. Enlin didn't know what was going on in Dongguo's mind, or else he would have pummeled him again. ZZZ, a super light particle energy beam suddenly appeared in front of him. Those rays of light were like the most terrifying sharp swords, piercing through the void and splitting the space apart, causing people to shrink back at the sight of it. What a terrifying energy formation! Even a return to void stage being wouldn't be able to withstand such a high density of energy. Dongguo exclaimed in shock. "Can your spatial power separate this energy?" Enlin asked. Dongguo raised his hands high into the air, and a burst of spatial fluctuations erupted, as if an invisible spatial barrier was trying to keep the super light particle energy beam at bay. However, the sound of glass shattering erupted, and everything returned to normal. "No, this energy is too powerful," Dongguo exclaimed in shock. Enlin. He felt like he shouldn't have asked Dongguo if he could do it. However, just as Enlin was contemplating how to pass through this energy formation, he discovered that the beams of light had disappeared of their own volition. All that was left was an empty passageway. All three of them faltered upon seeing this. What's going on? Could it be that there's no energy left? Dongguo was astonished. Enlin, Dabai, I think you can try walking over to see if there's really no energy left, Enlin suggested expressionlessly. No, this could be a trap. I can't do that. Dongguo shook his head vigorously. I thought you didn't know. Enlin rolled his eyes. Dongguo's chest constricted upon hearing this. Just what did he think of him in Enlin's heart? What do we do now? Woof. Dabai was getting a little nervous. The current situation was that all of a sudden, the passageway had disappeared, and it had been transformed into a bright path. This sudden 180-degree turn of events left everyone feeling a little unsure of what to do. All of them were worried that the passageway would explode, and that this was a trap to lure them in. After all, this sudden turn of events was far too bizarre. It could also be that the woman I mentioned earlier is clearing this path for us, Enlin analyzed. You're right, Master. Dongguo nodded in agreement. So, Dongguo, don't worry, we'll be right behind you. Enlin encouraged him. Dongguo really wanted to say something, but he was too scared to say it. Just because he was a slave, did he not have human rights? Just as the three of them were hesitating over what to do, a silver figure suddenly appeared in their field of vision. Big Brother Gundam is here! Enlin exclaimed with elation. Dongguo carefully looked behind the silver Gundam, and he heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing that there were no pursuers. The silver Gundam turned to Enlin and the others before speaking in a mechanical voice. Come with me. After saying that, it flew straight ahead. It had to be said that the Gundam gave the three of them a very strong sense of security. They looked at one another before gritting their teeth and following the Gundam. Enlin and the others continued onward as the green light became brighter and brighter. They encountered a few forks in the road, but they followed behind the Gundam without any hesitation. Soon, they came out of an intersection and arrived at an extremely vast area. This was a very large space with a length, width, and height of over 3 kilometers. However, close to 1 kilometer of the ground was covered in churning green lava, from which extremely scorching temperatures were emanating. Within this spacious space, there was a floating platform directly above the center of the green lava. The platform was protected by a blue barrier. A lithe and graceful woman in a flowing white robe had her hands pressed tightly against the white ball of light. Her brows were tightly furrowed, as if she were engaged in an extremely intense battle. Lin looked at the familiar figure with a smile. Bai Ling, it really is you. We meet again. The woman didn't turn to look at him, but a voice transmission sounded in his mind. Lin, be careful, there's an enemy. Lin immediately activated his divine sense to the maximum upon hearing this. It was also at this moment that a sense of impending doom enveloped his entire body, sending chills running down his spine. Due to the perception of his divine sense, his body instinctively shifted in a certain direction by a small angle. It was also at this moment that an inky black blade projection pierced through his body. The inky black blade projection pierced through his body, and crimson blood stained the black blade, giving it a sinister and bloodthirsty appearance. Chapter 722. This was the first time that Lin had experienced this excruciating pain, and it was a pain that penetrated deep into his bones. The black blade of the sword had punctured through the left side of his chest, and his almost indestructible divine body had been punctured. Thankfully, Bai Ling's warning made him turn in the nick of time. Otherwise, his heart would have been punctured instead. The enemy wasn't launching a sneak attack from behind. Instead, it was attacking from the front. Even so, Lin was still unable to keep up with its trajectory, and he was caught off guard as his body was punctured by the sword. Wah! A huge baby that was only about half the height of a grown man with deathly pale skin and a pair of inky black, crimson eye sockets appeared on its body. It wore a red doo-doo, and there was a pair of fleshy wings on its back. Its smile appeared particularly eerie and sinister under the illumination of the green light around it. It was holding an inky black spear in its hand, and it was that spear that had stabbed into Lin's body. Big brother and woof! Dabai let loose an enraged roar at the sight of Lin's injury, and its claws tore through the air before slashing a sharp blue streak toward the huge baby. Splat! The huge baby pulled out the spear, and blood splattered through the air as it dodged backward, easily evading Dabai's claws. In the next instant, Dongguo's sword flashed through the air, and a peerless sword projection shot forth like a bolt of lightning toward the huge baby's head. Not only was it imbued with monstrous power, but it was also extremely fast. The huge baby's movements were also unbelievably fast. It pressed its arm downward, and the spear left a series of black afterimages in its wake. This was a simple vertical slash, but it was imbued with the true intent of the Great Tao, thereby reducing the sword projection into specks of light with ease. Dongguo was a little dumbstruck. Why was it that every single one of his attacks was so easily nullified by his enemy? It was as if his return to Void Stage cultivation base was a fake. A bloody hole appeared on Lin's body, and his evergreen technique immediately began to automatically regenerate his injuries. However, he didn't have time to wait for his injuries to fully recover. Instead, he pulled out his evil-slaying sword and cooperated with Dongguo. However, an indescribable burst of gravitational force suddenly descended upon his body, causing his bones to creak and creak. What was going on? Lin was horrified. The terrifying gravity caused his movements to pause. Just as he was about to use the origin energy of the netherworld, a series of green, metallic chains wrapped tightly around his body, including his hands and legs. Gundam, you did this? Lin turned around in disbelief, and looked at the silver Gundam behind him. The silver Gundam was releasing gravity with one hand, while the other hand was releasing chains that contained extremely powerful sealing power. Let go of brother and woof! Dabai pounced at the silver Gundam, but the Gundam opened its mouth and unleashed a terrifying blast of air, causing Dabai to vomit blood and fall to the ground. Dongguo was scared ***, and he immediately retreated to defend himself. The sudden change put the two people and the dog in a desperate situation. None of them had expected the silver Gundam to suddenly rebel and target them. Dongguo let loose a torrent of abuse. F***ck. Was this mechanical puppet crazy? It tried to kill us first, then it saved us, and now it's trying to harm us? Is there something wrong with its brain? Perhaps it wasn't here to save us in the first place. Instead, it was trying to lure us here. Unlin gritted his teeth. He used all of his strength to try and break free from the chains, but he didn't know what the chains were made of, but he was unable to break free with brute force. Clap, clap, clap. At this moment, a crisp clap sounded. That's right. The first battle between this purple star mechanical bloodline creation and you guys was just a prank of mine. As for helping you fight off your enemies, it was also because I wanted to get rid of those annoying flies. A woman with an extremely perfect figure and facial features slowly made her way toward Enlin. Her long black hair danced behind her, and her dark and deep beautiful eyes exuded a strange charm. A faint smile hung on her pretty and flawless face. The majesty of a superior and the playfulness of a girl next door were harmoniously combined. In any case, everything I did was to get you here. After all, I'm the one in control of everything. The woman made her way toward Enlin, and a faint smile appeared on her face as she raised Enlin's chin with a finger. Long time no see, Enlin. Enlin took a deep breath. Black spirit snake? What are you doing here? That's right, this woman was none other than the black-haired beauty he had met on Earth. At the time, they were still discussing how to maintain world peace, so how did she suddenly become the antagonist of this world? Why am I here? Black Spirit Snake chuckled. This world is my mansion, can't I come here for a vacation? Enlin, what the F***CK? Whose mansion was in the same world? Tina's mansion was. Then why did you capture me? We don't have any vendettas, do we? Enlin asked with a resigned expression. Hee, no vendettas. Black Spirit Snake chuckled before turning toward the box on Enlin's back. It's just that this phoenix egg belongs to Her Majesty. Thank you for bringing it here. You've saved me a lot of effort. Enlin's body shuddered upon hearing this. So this phoenix egg was her target? That made sense. She had already told him that this was her mansion. If this world really was the land of the fallen phoenix, then how could the birth of the phoenix egg be hidden from her? It looked like this black spirit snake woman was a very bad *SS character. No wonder the celestial court didn't intervene even after such a massive incident. It looked like they didn't have a legitimate reason to fight for the egg, so they gave up. Then I won't hold back. I'll gladly accept the egg. As for what happens next, you're on your own now, hee. A pure smile appeared on Black Spirit Snake's face as her hand slowly reached toward the box on Enlin's back. It was over, the egg was really going to be gone. Not only that, but how was he going to defend himself against that strange child and Gundam? An expression of despair appeared on Enlin's face. Donghua and Dabai were being restricted by the silver puppet and the huge baby, so they were completely unable to do anything. Boom! A bolt of white lightning pierced through the air before puncturing Black Spirit Snake's head at an extremely terrifying speed. Black Spirit Snake's eyes widened with incredulity as she turned toward Bai Ling. You're willing to give up control over your body for this man? Bai Ling harumphed lightly as her body swayed slightly, and a hint of color drained from her cold features. She paused momentarily before chuckling lightly. As long as I can stop you from doing what you want to do, I feel like it's all worth it. You're just a clone, there's no place for you to run amok. Lightning wreaked havoc as Black Spirit Snake's body exploded into a cloud of black mist before disappearing from heaven and earth. Bai Ling then slashed a white line through the air toward Enlin, and a peerless white line sliced through the chains binding Enlin in half. Enlin, hurry up and get out of here! Bai Ling's cry had only just fallen when the Silver Gundam's eyes suddenly dimmed, as if it had been disrupted by some kind of electric wave. Meanwhile, the huge baby seemed to have been provoked by something, and it pounced toward Bai Ling in an enraged manner before stabbing its black spear relentlessly into the blue light barrier, causing it to tremor violently. Everything had happened far too quickly. After regaining his freedom, Unlin pulled out his evil-slaying sword with a determined expression. Chapter 723. There were return-to-void stage mighty figures outside the bronze gate, and there were the terrifying yawning monsters and the silver Gundam here. What to do was indeed a difficult choice. However, Bai Ling had chosen to sacrifice something in order to save him. Then there was nothing to choose from. Unlin could only choose to kill the yawning monsters and the silver Gundam. He was a decisive person. After analyzing the situation, he immediately rushed to the front of the silver Gundam. He had to kill it while it was down. What if he destroyed a Gundam? It wasn't through brute force. Even a return-to-void stage mighty figure wouldn't be able to damage a Gundam with its alloy body. The most convenient way was to dismantle it. Now that the Gundam was being interfered with, it was the perfect opportunity to dismantle it. Thankfully, he had received all of the mechanical engineering knowledge from the Purple Star Research Institute. Otherwise, he really wouldn't know how to dismantle the Gundam. He slashed a series of black sword projections toward the Gundam with his evil-slaying sword in his right hand while carving a series of complex formations with his left hand. Amid a burst of energy explosions, the silver Gundam's energy core was successfully extracted. Unlin immediately refined it into his own item before stowing it away into his storage ring. That's right, the Gundam's energy core belonged to someone else, so it couldn't be stowed away into his storage ring. However, it had been refined into his own now, so stowing it into his storage ring was a very simple task. He then stowed the silver Gundam's body into his storage ring as well. The silver Gundam was dead. "Master, what are you doing? Let's get out of here." Donghua came to his senses before running toward Unlin. "Run my A**s. Come and save the damsel in distress. Serves you right for being single for thousands of years." Unlin flared up with rage. Donghua immediately came to a realization upon hearing this. "Master, you're right. I won't back down anymore." Dabai clasped his face in his hands. Unlin was going to save his concubine, so what did that have to do with Donghua? And he was still so excited. Serves him right for being single for thousands of years. At this moment, the giant baby's expression suddenly calmed down a little. It gradually came to its senses, and it turned toward Unlin and the others as a sinister smile appeared on its face. Bai Ling's features were deathly pale, and a trickle of blood trickled down the corner of her lips. She turned to look at Unlin and the others, her clear eyes filled with doubt as she asked, "Why didn't you escape?" "I can kill one inging monster with one punch. Why should I run?" Unlin twisted his neck. His aura skyrocketed and he was full of fighting spirit. A sinister gust of wind blew past, and the giant baby had already appeared in front of Unlin. Unlin's heart trembled. No wonder he was ambushed before. This giant baby's spatial skipping ability was already as powerful as Tina's. Spatial skipping was different from spatial travel. Spatial travel was an ability that all return-to-void stage mighty figures could master. However, spatial teleportation was something that one could only grasp after attaining an extremely deep level of attainment in the Tao of space. It was a godly skill that allowed one to leap forward and dodge quickly. Without tearing space, one could directly cross short distances. If one used it well, they would become extremely terrifying. Unlin unleashed his origin energy of the netherworld, and his aura was close to that of a return-to-void stage mighty figure. He then activated his divine inspection technique to evade the giant baby's black spear in the blink of an eye. He took a step to the side, and his foot created ripples that crushed the ground within a radius of over 100 meters. A golden lotus insignia flashed on his forehead, and his fist was enshrouded in golden light as he launched it toward the giant baby's head. At the same time, he also activated the vast power of the earth. The monstrous baby reacted with terrifying speed, and it also clenched its other hand into a fist. A white halo revolved around the surface of its fist, and Unlin could sense an extremely holy aura emanating from it. What kind of experience was it to sense the aura of an angel from a giant baby that looked like a ghost? The two fists collided in that instant. Boom! An earth-shattering boom erupted as a shock wave of energy swept through the air for several kilometers. Green lava churned violently, and the rock wall was pulverized to reveal the metallic barrier with a green light revolving around it. Lin was blasted back like a cannonball by the earth-shattering force before crashing into the metallic barrier. He almost threw up a mouthful of blood from the devastating impact. So powerful! He had clearly unleashed his full power, but he was still slammed into the wall by a single punch. Bai Ling was unable to free herself, and she turned to look at Lin out of the corner of her eye. Her lips twitched upon seeing this. One punch to kill a baby monster? Was Lin that baby monster? The giant baby was also knocked back for some distance, but it was in a much better condition than Lin. It was also at this moment that a dazzling long sword tore through the air before stabbing toward its heart like a bolt of lightning. Donghua had chosen the perfect opportunity to strike again. This sword strike was extremely powerful, and it was imbued with extremely profound sword intent, as if it were a heavenly sword capable of slicing through the heavens. A hint of impatience appeared on the giant baby's face as a black halo suddenly appeared on the tip of its black spear. Immediately afterward, sinister winds howled and countless ghosts wailed as boundless darkness emanated from the tip of the spear before extending into the air. At that moment, Donghua felt as if he could see a boundless abyss of despair. Whoosh! The inky black spear swept horizontally toward Donghua's sword, and the power of darkness created a black line that sliced through heaven and earth, instantly pulverizing Donghua's sword technique. Immediately thereafter, it was as if darkness had descended upon Donghua's returned to void stage body. PFFF. Donghua's body was almost sliced in half, and he hurtled back in retreat as blood gushed from his mouth. Donghua's opportunistic attack had failed again, and the consequences of his failure were extremely tragic. If he were to be chased down by the giant baby monster, he could very well die. However, his attack wasn't completely pointless. At the very least, he had bought Lin some precious time. Did it take time to insert the blood essence into the energy core to establish a connection and rebuild the heart network? Yes. Did it take time to insert the energy core into the Gundam's chest and activate it? Very much. Donghua had managed to stall for time, and his sacrifice was meaningful. Lin looked at the giant baby hovering in the air with a smile on his face. Go, Gundam 3, kill it for me. A silver Gundam stood proudly beside him with a terrifying aura that threatened to tear the heavens apart. Yes, master. Gundam 3 spread open its hand, and a particle sword shot forth as it tore through the air toward the giant baby monster. Wah! The giant baby monster cocked its head to the side, and a crimson light flashed through its eye socket. Gundam 3 swung its particle sword through the air to create an impenetrable sword net. The giant baby monster's body flashed, and it evaded Gundam 3's attack with an extremely contorted movement technique before appearing directly above Gundam 3. A white halo appeared around its fist, and a holy aura filled the air as its fist fell. Boom! The space around it trembled and shattered with earth-shattering might. Gundam 3's entire body seemed to have been flattened by the power of the fist, and it plummeted to the ground, where a gargantuan fist indentation was left on the metal floor. Immediately afterward, it unleashed a frenzied barrage of punches. Boom, boom, boom. Gundam 3 threw up mouthfuls of motor oil, and it was completely powerless to retaliate. Lin. Chapter 724. Lin knew that he couldn't hold back now. Even the domineering Silver Gundam was completely outclassed by the giant baby. If things continued to drag on like this, it was very likely that it was going to be crushed by the giant baby. There was no time to hesitate. Lin sheathed his evil-slaying sword before pulling out a longsword from his storage ring, from which a frosty aura emanated. The blade of the sword was snowy white and exuded extremely powerful energy fluctuations. This was an intermediate-rank spirit tool, the frost-sealing cloud sword. An extremely fearsome sword, intense sword into the sky. Bam! The frost-sealing cloud sword shattered. 6 strikes of the war god, sword burial. The shattered blade wailed with anguish as all of the essence unique to an intermediate-rank spirit tool was completely activated in that instant, and the entire space around it was frozen solid by the frosty sword intent. As the sword light shone brightly, heaven and earth became as vast as snow, and the frighteningly green light was suppressed. Whoosh whoosh. 2 chains formed from the shattered blade of the sword pierced through the air before binding onto the giant baby's arms. The power of frost and the power of sealing. Heaven and earth crashed down upon the giant baby. Wah! The giant baby's expression shifted slightly as it began to struggle, but it was unable to break free. After all, this technique was worth at least 150,000 spirit stones. And Lin's storage ring flashed, and a black longsword appeared in his hand. The body of the longsword was inky black, but the blade was crimson, from which terrifying black lightning flashed. This sword was known as the Kuan Wu Divine Lightning Sword, and it was forged from the spine of a Return to Void stage true demon. It was a high-rank spirit tool that was imbued with extremely fearsome destructive power. 6 strikes of the war god, sword burial. Bam! The Kuan Wu Divine Lightning Sword shattered, and the black shards and crimson shards symbolized destruction and death. A mighty true demon projection appeared in the air before opening its crimson eyes. It gripped the air, and a celestial sword imbued with black lightning materialized in its hand. Killing intent surged from its body, and vital energy surged for 3,000 meters as boundless power converged upon the sword. Crack! The space around it was unable to withstand the boundless sword might and began to crumble. The true demon projection slashed its sword down upon the giant baby, which had been temporarily restrained by the frost-sealing cloud sword. Rumble! Divine lightning exploded, and the peerless sword projection was imbued with boundless destructive lightning, tearing open an indescribable rift in space before crashing directly into the giant baby's body. The explosion of lightning and the terrifying sharpness of the sword light caused the entire space to tremble. The cloud chain also collapsed because it couldn't withstand the terrifying energy. Weep, weep, weep. The giant baby's body was sliced open by the sword projection, and white blood splattered out. Its body was knocked back several hundred meters by the peerless sword projection and fell into the green lava. This move was indeed awesome. No wonder it was worth 300,000 spirit stones. And Lin withdrew his origin energy of the netherworld and half knelt on the ground as he panted heavily. He was in great pain. Every time the spirit artifact exploded, his heart felt as if it was being stabbed by a sword. The pain was so great that he found it hard to breathe. After all, hundreds of thousands of spirit stones were gone in the blink of an eye. This was AF * King Pay-to-Win move. It hurt so much to use it. Dong Guo lay on the ground with severe injuries, and he was astonished once again at the sight of An Lin's insane power. Was there really such a huge disparity between him and his master? Are you alright, big brotherin? Woof. Dabai, who had transformed into his miniature form, ran toward An Lin with a concerned expression. Dongguo's heart sank again upon seeing this. He was the one with the most severe injuries, so why was no one showing any concern? Wait, no. It wasn't that no one was showing any concern, it was that not even a dog was showing any concern. He suddenly experienced the coldness of the world. In this world where human emotions were cold, he couldn't feel any warmth at all. As expected of a dog, Dabai was able to conceal his aura in countless ways to make his enemies ignore his existence, which was why he was the one with the least injuries. Of course, it was also possible that his enemies didn't view him as a threat at all. I'm fine, I'm just a little exhausted. An Lin waved a hand before rising to his feet with great difficulty. Let's go and see how Dongguo is doing. He's the one who needs the most attention. Dongguo faltered slightly upon hearing this before tears welled up in his eyes, and he was almost moved to the point of shedding tears. There was always true love in this world. As expected, Enlin was still looking out for him. All of his efforts in battle hadn't been in vain. He was then greeted by the sight of Enlin carrying a coffin over to him. "Lie down on it," Enlin instructed Dongguo. He obediently lay down on the coffin and began to circulate his energy to recover from his injuries. It was also at this moment that the surging green lava suddenly began to recede, as if it were being sucked away by something. Everyone's expression stirred upon seeing this. Enlin immediately pulled out an intermediate-rank spirit sword. The lava quickly receded, following which a massive, deathly pale baby appeared before Enlin. Its appearance did not change much. It still looked like a strange creature, but its size had increased by several times. It was even bigger than a normal person. Aside from that, green pupils had appeared in its empty eye sockets, and there was lush green hair growing on its head, giving it a dangerous aura. At this moment, a cold and urgent voice sounded in his mind. "Enlin, the demonic baby is in its most powerful state right now, so don't even think about killing it. Conserve your energy and use everything you can to preserve your life. If you have any life-saving or restrictive artifacts, use them to stall for time. Once the 3 minutes are up, the demonic baby will disappear." Bai Ling's face paled even further as she said all of this in one breath. "Thank you. It's only 3 minutes, that's easy." Enlin made an okay hand gesture toward Bai Ling, indicating that she didn't need to worry. Speaking of which, the demonic baby was such a lame name. It wasn't even as good as the name, Ying Monster. The green lava had been completely sucked dry by the demonic baby, revealing a series of strange veined patterns that resembled some kind of spell formation. Unfortunately, Enlin couldn't understand what they were. Ing. A smug smile suddenly appeared on the demonic baby's face as it stared at Enlin with a cruel expression. That's right, Enlin was the one who had injured it. The first person it wanted to kill now was Enlin. Enlin was given a fright by the demonic baby's cries. When it was small, the demonic baby's cries were like a spoiled little sister's. It was a little strange, but at least it was pleasing to the ear. However, the demonic baby's cries were like the cries of a burly man weighing over 100 kilograms, f*ck, so scary. Trash. Eat my sword. The intermediate-rank spirit tool in his hand, the coiling tiger true yang sword, shattered into countless golden shards. 6 strikes of the war god, sword burial. The only advantage of sword burial was that it could conserve energy, but it could unleash power far beyond the user's own power. Enlin was able to easily unleash attacks comparable to those of a veteran return to void stage mighty figure. Golden shards danced through the air. This was a technique that was valued at 200,000 spirit stones. It was forged from the true flames of an ancient immortal beast, the golden fire tiger, and it was imbued with the power of pure yang as well as the peerlessly domineering power of the golden fire tiger. Roar! A gigantic golden tiger, exuding a primordial aura, appeared. Its roar suppressed everything around it, stirring up tempestuous waves in space. It suddenly pounced toward the demonic infant, and its tiger claws flickered with golden light. A golden cube appeared and sealed the demonic infant's space. At the same time, boundless golden sealing power descended from the heavens. Roar! The flaming barbarian golden tiger charged toward the nascent soul in an awe-inspiring manner. Its claws were enveloped in terrifying true flames, and the space around its claws warped and shattered. Ing. The demonic baby grinned. Chapter 725. A rainbow halo suddenly appeared above the demonic baby's head, from which boundless divine light burst forth. Enlin's pupils contracted as his heart jolted with fear. This is the power of the divine Tao? The power of the divine Tao was a power that could only be unleashed by Tao integration stage mighty figures or mighty figures of the Tao integration stage. However, this demonic baby was also able to unleash this power. No. This power seems to be flawed. Enlin had battled Xing Tian, Go Chen, Ziwei, and other top-rate mighty figures in the past, so he had a certain level of experience with this type of power. As such, he could sense that the power of the divine Tao unleashed by the demonic baby was flawed. However, even if it was flawed, this type of power was not something that a normal return to void stage mighty figure could compare with. The demonic baby wielded its black spear, and the golden flaming tiger's spatial seal was instantly shattered. Roar! At this moment, the golden flaming tiger's claws were already sweeping toward the demonic baby. The demonic baby flapped its wings, and its body instantly flashed behind the golden flaming tiger. Enlin thought that the demonic baby was evading the golden flaming tiger's attack, but he was immediately dumbstruck in the next instant. This was because the golden flaming tiger's body had suddenly been sliced in half, and its body began to dissipate into the air. The demonic baby had already unleashed a counterattack at the same time it evaded the attack, and it was so fast that even Enlin didn't notice it. His 200,000 spirit stone attack was completely useless. The demonic baby turned its green eyes toward Enlin, and a peculiar smile appeared on its face. What? A chill ran down Enlin's spine as he felt an indescribable sense of pressure. He felt like the demonic baby was looking at him as if it were looking at a dead man. Divine Inspection Technique. Second Stage Wind Spirit Technique. Enlin's eyes turned snowy white, and at the same time, a pair of white wind wings appeared on his back. In any case, he had to maintain these two standard skills for at least 3 minutes. Otherwise, he would be dead before he knew it. Oh, there were only 2.5 minutes left, and the demonic baby didn't seem to be in a hurry to attack. Enlin was more than happy to face it off. Why don't you fight me for 3 minutes? Whoosh! A crisp, buzzing sound rang out, and a pair of massive crimson eyes suddenly appeared behind the demonic baby. Those two pupils contained boundless depravity, brutality, slaughter, fear, death. A blood-red world suddenly unfolded in front of him, causing Enlin's brain to buzz and become dizzy. This was a divine soul attack. Enlin never imagined that the demonic infant would choose such a method of attack. If it were in existence with a weak divine soul, it was likely that their souls would be instantly destroyed by this attack. However, it was a pity that Enlin's consciousness was top-notch even among return-to-void stage mighty figures. Enlin clutched his head and screamed. His expression was one of extreme pain. The demonic infant smiled smugly, as if she admired Enlin's expression very much. Chirp. However, Enlin continued to yell for a whole minute, and nothing else happened. Enlin covered his head with both hands and kept screaming until he was out of breath. Anyone who screamed for a minute would be so tired that they would be out of breath. The smile on the demonic infant's face gradually disappeared, and a confused expression appeared on its face. Chirp, chirp, chirp. It silently cancelled its divine soul technique, only to discover that Enlin was still howling with anguish. Enlin screamed with an extremely painful expression. He turned toward the demonic infant, only to discover that its crimson eyes had already disappeared. An awkward expression appeared on his face as he screamed. The demonic infant's expression was extremely dark. Then, its expression gradually became more and more sinister. The feeling of being treated like a stupid C** and T welled up in its heart, and it finally exploded with rage. The rainbow halo above its head quickly revolved, and its might exploded forth, causing the entire space around it to tremor violently. Chirp! 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 At the same time, Enlin pulled out a high-rank spirit sword. 9 dragons immortal locking sword. 6 strikes of the war god, sword burial. Bam! The 9 dragons immortal locking sword shattered, and the dragon's scale-like shards shimmered with a dazzling light in the air. This was a technique that was worth 500,000 spirit stones. Hang in there, there was still a minute and a half left. And Lin was just about to unleash the full power of the 9 dragons' immortal locking sword when a black figure appeared before him with a sinister smile on its face. Chirp! And Lin had already activated his divine inspection technique, and all of his senses were heightened to the maximum. Everything appeared to be moving in slow motion, which was what the people on Earth referred to as bullet time. Even so, the demonic infant's speed was still unfathomably fast in his eyes. The black spear pierced through the air like a bolt of lightning. And Lin unleashed all of his power to evade, but he was only able to deflect his body slightly before the spear punctured his shoulder. Splat! And Lin's body plummeted to the ground like a flying sword, and blood gushed forth like a fountain. A tearing sensation swept through his entire body, and he couldn't shake the feeling that his body of the war god was completely useless in the face of the demonic infant's spear. The demonic infant pulled out the spear with a sinister smile before stabbing it toward Lin's head. In the face of absolute power and speed, Lin felt like it was an extravagant hope for him to even unleash a technique. For example, his sword had already been buried, and he didn't even have a chance to unleash that power before his opponent had him pinned to the ground and was about to kill him. How the F***ck was he supposed to fight now? A hint of despair welled up in Lin's heart. The black spear was just about to plunge into the ground again when a burst of terrifying golden energy surged forth from afar, dyeing the entire space golden. This energy was imbued with the power to disintegrate all matter into the smallest particles. This was a high-tech annihilation cannon. Boom! The demonic infant was blasted flying. Its chubby body tumbled to the ground, and its doo-doo had been torn, with smoke billowing from its stomach. A silver Gundam aimed its hands at the demonic infant, with smoke billowing from the holes in its palms and engine oil flowing from the corners of its mouth. And Lin was ecstatic. Good job, Gundam 3. As expected, this new teammate was a lot more reliable than Donghua and had saved his life in a dire situation. He immediately stood up and gripped the air toward the demonic infant. 9 dragons immortal locking, activate. Roar! 9 black dragons descended from the sky before pouncing toward the demonic infant, using their black dragon bodies to form a complex spell formation. 9 dragons immortal locking spell formation. Wind, rain, and lightning also appeared at this moment before surging toward the demonic infant, crashing relentlessly into its body. The terrifying sealing power even caused the peculiar metallic surface of the ground to cave in, and the demonic infant's chubby body was twisted and warped by the power of the spell formation. And Lin calculated the time in his mind to find that there was still 1 minute left. He had to hold on until the very last minute. And Lin pulled out another high-rank spirit tool, the North Star Sword. Only the high-rank spirit tool, the Sword Burial, could have some effect on the demonic infant now. He couldn't stop spending money. Otherwise, if he lost his life, he wouldn't even have a chance to spend money anymore. If a 500,000 spirit stone technique didn't work, then he would add another 500,000 spirit stone. Let's see if you're scared of 1,000,000. And Lin's entire body was glowing with the light of a tycoon as he looked down at the demonic infant trapped within the spell formation. 6 strikes of the war god, sword burial. Bam! The North Star Sword exploded. Chapter 726. The high-rank spirit tool, the North Star Sword, shattered into specks of light. A 500,000 spirit stone technique had been unleashed in that instant. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A series of dazzling stars appeared in the air, forming a starry sky formation above the demonic baby. A pillar of white light fell from the sky, shaking the heavens. The stars crashed down upon the demonic baby, eliciting a series of cries from it. Donghua stared blankly at the indescribably terrifying spell techniques that Lin had unleashed, and he was so astonished that he couldn't even close his mouth. In particular, all of the extremely precious spirit tools had exploded right before his eyes, completely shattering his outlook on cultivation. This kind of sword explosion technique was extremely terrifying. One had to realize that among the spirit swords that had just exploded, 3 of them were comparable in power to his Green Dawn spirit sword, but they had all exploded just like that. What else could he say? Rich. Inhumane rich. But just how many spirit swords did Enlin have to explode? If he ran out of swords, would he? With this in mind, Dong's body shuddered, and he gripped his storage ring tightly as he contemplated whether he should hide it. After all, he still had a few spirit tools in his storage ring. Just how powerful was this technique that had cost him 1,000,000 spirit stones? 9 immortal sealing dragons, starlight fell, and wind and lightning wreaked havoc. Even though the demonic baby could unleash power that was close to the power of the divine Tao, it was still immobilized by this terrifying sealing spell technique. The meteors pierced through the air before crashing into its body, causing its skin to cave in or crack open. Bah! The demonic baby suddenly let loose a strange cry. Boom! An extremely terrifying aura erupted forth, and Enlin's breathing faltered for a moment. The demonic baby's muscles suddenly bulged as green energy flames enshrouded its entire body. Its green hair stood up on end like needles, and it had transformed into a muscular baby. The demonic baby wielded its black spear and slashed it through the air in a semicircle. A series of tiny skulls formed a series of black ripples that were imbued with the power to engulf all things before instantly vanquishing the 9 black dragons. Enlin's expression shifted drastically as he pulled out another high-rank spirit sword. The North Star meteor formation was still activated, and the demonic baby stabbed its black spear into the sky. Bam! Space exploded, as if a black hole had appeared, completely vanquishing the North Star meteor formation. 30 seconds left. Enlin positioned his sword before him and activated his sword burial technique. It was also at this moment that a black spear crashed into the high-rank spirit sword. Crack! Bam! The high-rank spirit sword exploded, but it was destroyed by the black spear. It turned in a peculiar arc in the air before stabbed forward. It turned in a mysterious arc in the air and suddenly stabbed forward. With this stab, his aura rose to the peak, as if he could even pierce through the great Tao of the world. Even with the enhancements of his divine inspection technique and wings of wind, Enlin was still unable to evade. His body of the war god was punctured once again, and a ghastly hole was blasted into his chest. Enlin spat out a large mouthful of blood as the excruciating pain of being torn apart spread throughout his entire body. The demonic baby SPE and gun and of but the demon and through but the dem and his but his demon and dem but he the demonic infant's bones creaked in the gravitational field, but its movements were still extremely fast. It pulled out the spear that had been stabbed into Enlin's body and positioned it in front of itself to block Gundam 3's attack. At the same time, a white halo appeared on his left fist, and a holy aura spread outward. The projection of an archangel appeared behind the demonic infant, and it chanted a holy chant as the power of his fist swelled explosively once again. Rumble! The demonic baby's fist crashed down upon Gundam 3's body, and heaven and earth seemed to have lost their luster. The space within a radius of several hundred meters was warped and shattered by this punch, and Gundam 3's superalloy shell caved in and cracked open as boundless energy erupted forth. His entire body was like a meteor, crashing into the very edge of this vast space, causing the unknown metal wall to cave in. Zzz. Ka-ka! Gundam 3's body spasmed uncontrollably as sparks flew from its body. It had clearly been crippled. 20 seconds left. Enlin had already taken this opportunity to retreat over 100 steps and completely use sword burial. Advanced spirit sword, demon vanquishing spirit sword. The spirit sword that had been destroyed by the demonic baby instantly exploded into specks of golden light. That's right, even though the sword had been shattered, the essence within it was still present, so it could still be used. This was like a portion of gasoline being split into two portions. As long as there was no leakage in the process, it could still burn. This was an even more advanced spirit sword, and Lin Junjun had valued it at 550,000 spirit stones. The demonic baby had only just sent Gundam 3 flying when the entire space had been transformed into a vast expanse of golden light. Countless golden Sanskrit characters imbued with extremely powerful sealing power enshrouded the demonic baby, and the power of purification caused its body to falter as the black spear in its hand began to wail and screech. The green flames on the demonic baby's body clashed relentlessly with the golden Sanskrit characters to resist the fearsome power. It turned its eyes toward Enlin to discover a gargantuan golden fist descending upon its body with the power to crush the heavens. Boom! The demonic baby's body was flattened by the terrifying power of the fist, and it threw up a large mouthful of white blood as it flew back several hundred meters before crashing into the metal wall, where it was embedded deeply into the wall. History was always eerily similar. Enlin had avenged Gundam 3. There were still 10 seconds left. Enlin panted heavily. Even though sword burial was the most effortless technique, it was still very tiring to use it 6 times in a row. Furthermore, there were 2 holes on his body, and he had to use the origin energy of the netherworld every time he used sword burial. This was an extremely exhausting battle. He searched through his storage ring to find that there were no more high-rank spirit swords, but there were many other spirit tools. Enlin. My God! Why did he drop the ball at such a crucial moment? If he had known this was going to happen, he would have gone to the Celestial Court's Spirit Treasure Pavilion to exchange for a bunch of spirit swords. He turned his eyes toward the intermediate-rank spirit swords to discover that there were still a few of them. Screw it. Even if the intermediate-rank spirit swords were a little weaker, he would just have to make do with them. However, he didn't even get a chance to pull out the spirit swords before an indescribable burst of power hurtled toward his body. The demonic baby had unleashed a punch toward Enlin from afar. The terrifying force of the punch pierced through the air and landed directly on his body, making him feel as if his internal organs had been ruptured as he threw up a mouthful of blood mixed with fragments of his internal organs. Enlin's body had only just landed on the ground when a huge baby with white blood trickling from the corner of its mouth appeared before him with a sinister smile on its face. He didn't even have time to react in the face of a miraculous technique like spatial blink. The black spear was right in front of him, and Enlin's mind raced in this life and death situation. What kind of power could stop the demonic baby before him? The vermilion bird mirror definitely wouldn't work. This wasn't a spell technique, it was a pure physical attack. The chaotic alloy brick wouldn't work either, as it would crush him to death. The black spear had already fallen. Enlin's eyes widened as invisible ripples instantly proliferated outward. I'll make you cry. Bam! The green eyes of the huge baby suddenly exploded. The fake eyes couldn't shed tears, but they did. Tears of blood flowed from its eyes again. The huge baby wailed in anguish as the black spear fell. Enlin took advantage of this momentary gap to dodge to the side and evade that lethal strike. It was also at this moment that Enlin pulled out an inky black box. This was none other than the extremely powerful artifact that Enlin had obtained from Lin Junjun, the 1000 Possibility Box. After a period of charging, it had already stored up to 50% of its energy reserves. 1000 Possibility Box, kill this wailing monster for me. Enlin roared as he activated the 1000 Possibility Box with all his might and aimed the black hole at the demonic baby. Boom! The projection of a divine maiden appeared in the air with her entire body enshrouded in a holy light. She was so perfect, so powerful. The divine maiden extended a slender hand and slammed it viciously toward the demonic baby. Slap! An earth-shattering boom erupted. Enlin stared at the scenes unfolding before his eyes with a dumbstruck expression. The demonic baby's body swayed from the sudden slap to the face, and a scorching sensation spread across its cheeks. The divine maiden glowered at it with a hint of disappointment in her eyes before slowly disappearing. The 1,000 possibility box's energy reserves jumped from 50% to 49%. This slap was filled with love, and everyone fell deathly silent. Lin and the demonic baby both stood rooted to the spot and stared blankly at one another. Chapter 727. I've had my entire body used up to charge this 1,000 possibility box. In the face of life and death, you've given me a slap to the face? And Lin was astonished. The demonic baby was also astonished. No one had ever given it such a resounding slap to the face. This slap wasn't just a slap to the face, it was also a slap to the depths of its soul, as if it were a loving mother trying to slap a misguided child to its senses with a resounding slap. Wah! Tears of blood flowed from the demonic baby's empty eyes. Its body trembled slightly, and it unconsciously knelt to the ground. Mommy! I was wrong, Mommy, don't leave me! A voice as clear as a spring sounded, as if it were the sobbing of a little angel. The demonic baby's voice became even more adorable. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, boom! Scorching green lava gushed forth from the rainbow halo above the demonic baby's head before flowing into the crater again. The demonic baby's body slowly shrank, and its green hair also fell off as it became bald again. After the green lava was completely released, the demonic baby reverted back to its original size. No, it was even smaller than before. The fleshy wings on its back had disappeared, its eyes were tightly shut, and its chubby body was curled up into a ball as if it were in a deep slumber. A white halo enshrouded its body, giving it an extremely serene appearance. Its facial features were extremely delicate, and its sinister appearance from before was nowhere to be seen. It's finally over. And Lin's legs gave out from under him, and he collapsed to the ground as he panted heavily. In this battle, it could be said that he had gone beyond his limit. He had used almost all of his trump cards, including the 6 extremely valuable spiritual swords, F***CK, my heart hurts. Millions of spirit stones are gone. And Lin's heart spasmed with this in mind, and his blood flow almost became unstable. Big Brotherin, do you want me to land the killing blow for you? Woof. Dabai reverted back to his giant dog form before running toward Lin with a menacing look on his face. Dabai had been completely petrified by the terrifying demonic baby, and he didn't even dare to make his presence known. But now that the demonic infant had turned into someone who could be easily bullied, it could no longer hold back the power in its body. After all, it was still good at kicking kindergartens. As the saying goes, a tiger that falls to the plains will be bullied by dogs. A dog that doesn't know how to beat a drowning dog is not a good dog. And Lin hesitated for a moment before nodding. Kill him. Don't be fooled by his angelic appearance. If he recovers, we'll all be finished. Yes, Woof. Dabai chuckled before pouncing toward the demonic baby. Wait. At this moment, Bai Ling's voice suddenly sounded. That demonic baby has expended all of its energy and has entered a dormant state. It won't be able to harm anyone for the time being. If you attack it, you'll trigger its self-defense mechanism, and it will awaken again. These words frightened Lin and Dabai so much that their expressions changed. Dabai even quietly took a few steps back, afraid that his killing intent would trigger the demonic infant. He looked like a cowardly dog. F***CK. He almost committed suicide. Don't worry, I can try to control the demonic infant after I regain control of this place. Bai Ling consoled him with a gentle smile. She seemed to be in a much better condition than before, and her words were also a little more relaxed. And Lin completely relaxed. Only now did he realize just how bad his condition was. His body was severely wounded, his internal organs were almost completely ruptured, and he was severely overexerted. If he really wanted to recover, he would probably need at least 10 days to half a month. He thought for a moment before pulling out a crimson pill with a pained expression on his face. In his current situation, He might have to continue battling, so he had to do his best to recover from his injuries. Screw it. Wasn't it just an immortal pill? He had already spent so much money on it, so one more immortal pill wasn't a big deal. The immortal pill in his hand was an 8th-grade immortal pill known as the Blood Rakshasa pill. It was something he had obtained from one of his blood tribe underlings, and it was also his last Blood Rakshasa pill. Its effect was to recover one's blood and injuries at an extremely fast rate, so it was a super divine pill that was extremely suitable for use in battle. And Lin swallowed the immortal pill before stowing the almost useless Gundam 3 into his storage ring. This silver Gundam could recover by absorbing the energy from spirit stones, but unfortunately, there were no more spirit stones left in his storage ring. All of them had been taken by Lin Junjun. How pitiful! And Lin couldn't really be considered a pauper right now. He was still a tycoon in the cultivation world, but all of his valuables had been converted into physical items. Just like some tycoons on Earth, they had dozens of mansions, tens of thousands of square meters of land, planes, and yachts, but they didn't have the cash to buy tea eggs on the street. How pitiful! How pitiful! And Lin sighed with emotion before making his way toward Dongguo. Get up, and Lin instructed. Dongguo lay in the blood-soul jade coffin with a confused expression. And Lin pointed at the 2 bloody holes on his body. My injuries are quite severe, so let me recover first. You go outside the coffin and recover. I'm much more powerful than you are, so we have to recover to the peak of our team as soon as possible. That's the most important thing. Dongguo's heart spasmed as he felt like he had been stabbed by a sword. He walked out of the coffin with tears streaming down his face before silently meditating beside the spirit pill. He really wanted to retort, but he couldn't find the words to do so. In this world where martial prowess reigned supreme, human emotions were so cold and emotionless that one couldn't experience even a hint of warmth, and Lin lay in the coffin. The blood-soul jade coffin was able to absorb the energy of this divine mountain to replenish its own energy. He swallowed another blood Rakshasa pill, and his injuries were recovering at an extremely fast rate under the dual healing effects of the blood Rakshasa pill. A smile involuntarily appeared on Bai Ling's face upon seeing this. She spoke in a gentle voice, Lin, I didn't think you'd become so powerful after not seeing you for a while. Even the demonic baby couldn't do anything to you. Lin waved a hand with a calm expression. Don't make a big deal out of it. Bai Ling's lips twitched slightly, but she quickly composed herself. After all, she was quite familiar with Lin's personality, and she continued, to be honest, you're the fastest person I've ever seen to become more powerful. It's truly astonishing. Do you have some kind of secret to becoming more powerful? This was a very difficult question to answer. Perhaps it's because I have my main character Halo? Lin heaved a forlorn sigh. He had the God of War system. That was his main character Halo. Bai Ling really didn't know how to respond. She had never seen such a confident person before. By the way, did you come here to fight for control of this world? Is Black Spirit Snake a match for you? Lin suddenly asked. He had come up with many theories based on the information he had gathered. Bai Ling nodded. This place is the Purple Star 6th Research Institute, which is also known as the Phoenix Research Institute. This place originally belonged to the Purple Star, but after the fall of the Purple Star civilization, Nuwa took over this research institute. Lin's interest was instantly piqued upon hearing this. Anyone would be interested in something that involved a legendary mighty figure like Nuwa. Furthermore, from Bai Ling's tone, it sounded like Black Spirit Snake was a member of Nuwa's faction. So you're saying that Nuwa's faction is unwilling to give up this research institute after seeing the arrival of a genuine Purple Star? Bai Ling wore a nonchalant expression. I don't know what Nuwa's intentions are, but at the very least, Black Spirit Snake is unwilling to submit. That makes sense. After all, she has been managing this research institute for so many years. If she was forced to relinquish control as soon as I arrived, then all of her previous efforts would have been for naught. No one would be willing to submit to that. So you guys started fighting? And Lin asked. Heh. A faint smile appeared on Bai Ling's face. I made a bet with her. She relinquished control of this research institute, then we competed to see who would be the master of this research institute first. And Lin's eyes lit up with elation. You're the mastermind of the Purple Star Research Institute. Doesn't that mean you're definitely going to win? No, judging from the current situation, I'm definitely going to lose. Otherwise, why do you think I have so much free time to chat with you? Bai Ling heaved a forlorn sigh. And Lin. Chapter 728. This reply was far too unexpected, and Lin almost sprained his back. Holy F***ck. You're about to F***king lose, why are you still so confident? And Lin was astonished. Bai Ling shrugged with a smile. I'm confident that I'm going to lose, but can't I? And Lin's lips twitched. You're about to lose this research institute, how can you be so calm? Bai Ling's expression was still not dejected. So what if I'm calm? I can't beat Black Spirit Snake, so I have no choice. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. And Lin was a little apologetic. He had been trapped by the Silver Gundam and the demonic baby, and if it weren't for Bai Ling's intervention, he would not have been saved. From Black Spirit Snake's words, he knew that his intervention would definitely have a huge impact on Bai Ling's fight for control of the research institute. Don't tell me that. Bai Ling waved her hand and said, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have set foot in this world again. The research institute isn't that important. It's my fortune to get it, but it's my fate to lose it. So what she's trying to say is that I'm more important than the research institute? And Lin's heart was filled with guilt upon hearing this. By the way, we can't let them have that phoenix egg. Bai Ling turned toward the area behind Lin and said, after all, that's the most precious thing in our Purple Star Phoenix Research Institute. I'll teach you a spell formation. Inscribe that spell formation onto the phoenix egg, then drip your blood essence onto it to tame it and make it acknowledge you as its master. Heh, if someone else obtained this phoenix egg, they really wouldn't be able to do anything to it. It's exactly because of this that Black Spirit Snake is taking her time to execute her plan. However, you were the one who obtained the phoenix egg, and you encountered me. Perhaps this is fate. A hint of melancholy appeared in Bai Ling's eyes, as if she was reminiscing about the past. And Lin was a little hesitant upon hearing this. Big Sister Bai, this phoenix egg is so precious, are you really willing to give it to me? From what they had just said, this egg should also belong to the Purple Star. However, Bai Ling wanted him to establish a relationship with the phoenix egg, which was quite unexpected to him. This is your opportunity, so don't dawdle. Bai Ling's expression darkened as she spoke in a disgruntled voice. And Lin nodded. Then, he thought of something else. What if I'm hunted by the Nuwa forces after I take the phoenix egg for myself? Bai Ling. Good question. I've decided not to give this egg to you. I want it for myself. No, I want it. And Lin's expression changed, and he immediately made up his mind. My God, I went through so many hardships and spent so much gold just to get this egg. I can't let it slip away just like that. Bai Ling burst into laughter as her eyes shimmered. You're the kind of person who only knows how to be honest. Don't worry, Black Spirit Snake isn't that petty. If the phoenix egg truly accepts her as its master, then she can only accept it. She won't do anything like murder or robbery. That's her bottom line. And Lin nodded. He had an inexplicable encounter with Black Spirit Snake in the past, and he knew that she wasn't the type to do whatever she wanted just because she was powerful. She should be able to reason with him. She should be able to do that. A wisp of divine intent traveled into his mind. This was a spell formation regarding how to tame the phoenix and make it accept her as its master. And Lin crawled out from the coffin and carefully pulled out the phoenix egg from the white fox divine box before inscribing a spell formation onto the golden egg according to the instructions given to him by Bai Ling. After inscribing, the golden egg began to glow with an even more dazzling light, as if it were surging with restlessness. At the same time, an extremely terrifying aura began to proliferate through the air, as if an extremely fearsome primordial beast was slowly awakening. And Lin withstood the pressure and made a hand seal to form a beast pet contract before dripping a drop of blood essence onto the phoenix egg. Sizzle! The blood essence was absorbed by the golden egg, and the dazzling light around the egg dimmed as its aura also began to recede. An indistinct connection was established between Lin and the golden egg. Within his sea of vital energy, the white vermilion bird let loose a joyful cry, as if it was celebrating something, and Kiran yawned as he sat on the little whale's head. He stared at the excited vermilion bird with a confused expression, wondering if it had taken the wrong medicine. And Lin blinked at the suddenly unresponsive golden egg. "That's it?" Bai Ling nodded. "That's it. Now we just have to wait for it to hatch." "How do we hatch it? Can we roast it with our divine flames?" And Lin asked with a curious expression. Bai Ling's eyes widened. "Are you crazy? That's an egg." Bai was also astonished. "Big brother, and do you want this little phoenix to follow in the footsteps of our fourth brother?" "Woof." And Lin scratched his head. "Aren't phoenixes supposed to be reborn from the ashes? I was wondering if I could feed it a fire." Bai Ling. "Please stop with your stupid thoughts." Dongwu grasped another important point. "What is this fourth brother you're talking about?" And Lin and Bai fell silent upon hearing this. This was an unbearable past, so they should just let it go with the wind. Big brother and Little Na is ranked 5th and Little Tian is ranked 6th. Does that mean this phoenix is ranked 7th? Woof. Bai chimed in. "That's right." And Lin's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but fantasize. "I finally have a 7th beast pet. 7 bottle-gourd brothers. Grandpa, let's go catch the snake spirit." Woof woof. Bai's eyes were wide open as it stuck out its tongue. When it had descended into the mortal world with Lin, it had seen the story of 7 men and a beautiful woman, so it had also gotten into character. "All right. Where's the snake spirit? I have to teach her a lesson." And Lin spoke in a deep voice, imitating the voice of an elderly man to perfection. "Grandpa, isn't the snake spirit on that flying rock over there?" Woof. A sly smile appeared on Bai's face as he turned toward Bai Ling. "Amazing. There really is an elderly man, 7 bottle-gourd brothers, and a snake spirit." And Lin was astonished as he stared at the departing woman. Bai Ling. For some reason, Lin and Bai suddenly felt a chill run down their spines. There was killing intent. Dongwu's mouth gaped open as he looked at the two of them, only to discover that he was the only one being ignored. No one was paying attention to what he had just said. He pulled his clothes tighter around his body as a dejected expression appeared on his face. This world was far too cold and cruel. He couldn't feel even a hint of warmth. "Big brother, and what name do you think we should give the phoenix?" Woof. Bai was forced to change the subject by the killing intent. "That's a question. Is Little Feng better or Little Huang better?" And Lin stroked his chin in deep thought. "That's too casual," Bai Ling interjected. "All right. How about Little Huang? Yellow as in yellow." And Lin's eyes lit up as a thought occurred to him. "Bai Ling, Bai, are you sure you're not raising a dog?" Dongguo was astonished. The mighty mythological phoenix was being referred to as Little Huang? His outlook on cultivation had been refreshed once again. Chapter 729. And Lin glared at Dongguo. "What are you talking about? Wasn't Dongguo implying that Little Huang was a bad name?" "I think he's right," Bai Ling said expressionlessly. "I also think he's right, woof." Bai raised a paw in agreement. Not every color-based name is as simple and elegant as Debai's. Unlin felt like he was being looked down upon by everyone. He placed the phoenix egg back into the white fox divine box before strapping it onto his back again. Unlin lay down in the blood soul jade coffin again before activating his evergreen technique to digest the essence of the immortal pill in order to recover from his injuries. Bai Ling also continued to fight for control of the research institute. Even though there wasn't much hope left, she still had to try. What if she got lucky? Even though luck wasn't a very important factor in things like this, even though Black Spirit Snake had relinquished control of the heavenly Tao, her influence in this world was still very deep. Bai Ling was feeling a little bitter, but she couldn't do anything about it. She silently turned her gaze to the man who was still cultivating with his eyes closed, and a faint smile appeared on her face. It was as bright and beautiful as the spring breeze. She had placed all her hopes on Enlin for no reason. So even someone as rational as her could do irrational things. However, there was still an indescribable sense of anticipation in her heart. Perhaps it was because of the peculiar fate between Enlin and the Purple Star, or perhaps it was because Enlin didn't choose to run away from the Gundam and the demonic baby. In any case, she had decided to take a gamble. Time slowly passed by within this tranquil space. Outside, a storm was already brewing. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying, Duan Hunzi, and Bai Pingzi stared at one another as a tense, and exasperated atmosphere permeated through the air. They were unable to enter the Bronze Gate, and even space had been cut off, so they could only stand outside with blank expressions on their faces. Duan Hunzi tried to use his ghostly apparition to enter the gate from underground, only to discover that aside from this gate, the entire gate was enshrouded in a special type of metal. It was like a huge box without any gap. It was an impenetrable iron wall. What else could they do? They could only wait for the hair to come to them. If Enlin entered through the door, he would have to come out through the door, right? He couldn't possibly stay in there forever, right? The temptation of the phoenix egg was simply too great, so even under these circumstances, the three Return to Void stage mighty figures were still unwilling to leave. Looks like this is the core of this world. How enviable. I wonder what kind of opportunities little brother Enlin can obtain inside. An envious expression appeared on Fei Ying's face, but she was also secretly keeping a wary eye on the two people beside her. It doesn't matter what kind of opportunity he obtained. I just want his egg, Bai Pingzi said calmly. TSK. A useless bird like you wants to use a phoenix egg to fly to the top of a tree and become a phoenix? Aren't you overestimating yourself a little too much? The phoenix egg belongs to the life harvesting sect, and I've recently attained the smile of the death god, so my luck is on the rise. Duan Hunzi chortled with glee as he materialized a comical face for Bai Pingzi to see. Bai Pingzi's expression darkened, and the atmosphere instantly plummeted to a freezing point as killing intent swept through the air. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying silently retreated a few steps. If it weren't for the fact that I have to conserve my energy to deal with Enlin, you wouldn't even be able to smile anymore, Bai Pingzi said in a cold voice. They would attack as soon as Enlin appeared, and that was not going to change. All three Return to Void stage mighty figures knew what to do and what not to do. They weren't going to fight here and allow someone else to take advantage of them. The four-man gang was reduced to a three-man gang. Shuang Yukong didn't go to find Enlin. Even though he had sensed an extremely powerful clash of energy, he still didn't go to the place where the battle had erupted. Drip, drip, scorching green liquid dripped down from the metal ceiling, but it pierced through the rock formation and left an inky black hole in the ground. Shuang Yukong's heart was beating faster and faster. His heart was throbbing, and there was a sense of excitement mixed with fear. It was too thrilling. He passed through the winding passageway and arrived at a spacious place that was unbearably scorching. All of the rock formations here flowed like liquid, and the golden liquid was bubbling as a dazzling green light shone in the distance. This is it. Shuang Yukong's eyes lit up as he flew toward the green light. His field of vision expanded further and further. This seemed to be the energy center of the divine mountain. Violent energy swept through the air, and the terrifying aura emanating from this place made it difficult to breathe. The green light grew larger and larger, and Shuang Yukong finally caught a glimpse of the green light that had drawn him here, upon which he drew a sharp intake of breath. He was greeted by the sight of a gargantuan creature over 10,000 feet tall. It had 3 gargantuan heads, which consisted of a human head, a phoenix head, and a dragon head. It also had 6 peculiar arms, 2 of which held swords, 2 of which were red arms that were covered in feathers, and 2 of which were covered in purple scales. Its claws were like sharp scimitars. There was a pair of white bone wings on its back that glowed with a golden light. There was black lightning revolving around its 2 white legs, and the terrifying power emanating from them seemed to be able to shatter space itself. The green light enshrouding the monster's body didn't seem to be strengthening it. Instead, it seemed to be suppressing the gargantuan creature's power. Shuang Yukong's breathing accelerated, and his mind was a complete mess. Why did he come here? He had been guided here by some unseen force. But, was this really an opportunity? What was the use of this gargantuan creature to him? Shuang Yukong was extremely nervous as he stared at the gargantuan creature in the distance. A hesitant expression appeared on his face, and he didn't know whether he should continue onward or leave. Judging from its vital signs, it seems to be a living creature, but it seems to be in a dormant state, or it's been sealed away by some kind of power. Such a powerful life form, its organs must be very valuable, right? Shuang Yukong's eyes began to burn with passion, and for some reason, desire began to take over his body. Especially that golden ball on its chest. If it was made into a weapon, it would at least be a high-rank immortal tool. He murmured to himself as his body involuntarily flew toward the monster. I want it so much. His desire grew explosively, as if he had lost all rationality. Boom! Shuang Yukong crashed into the green halo of light, and a ringing sound erupted in his head. In that instant, he came back to his senses, and his expression shifted drastically as he stared at the 3 gargantuan heads that were inches away from him. No matter how stupid he was, he could tell that something was amiss at a time like this. Run. He had to run. He tore open a spatial rift without hesitation and tried to escape. Crack space was sealed, and a terrifying power that was powerful enough to crush all things in heaven and earth began to proliferate. Shuang Yukong's body trembled uncontrollably, but his body was completely immobilized. The human head among the 3 gargantuan heads suddenly opened its crimson eyes and cackled. Chapter 730. Shuang Yukong almost lost his composure in the face of this terrifying might, but he was a veteran return-to-void stage mighty figure who had been through countless battles, so he unleashed all of his trump cards without hesitation. Transit Sun Heavenly Shield. Ethereal Flash. Divine Symbol of Life. Explosive divine lightning crackled around Shuang Yukong's body as he attempted to tear through the spatial seal. The Transit Sun Heavenly Shield stood behind him, releasing an extremely powerful energy barrier. So hungry, the human head muttered, its scarlet eyes glaring once more. The space within a radius of 10,000 zhang began to distort into a vortex. Under the terrifying spatial distortion, the celestial towering sun shield instantly shattered. Pua! Shuang Yukong threw up a mouthful of blood, following which he let out a heart-wrenching cry. Bang! His body was finally crushed by the terrifying power of space. Flesh and blood scattered in the air, and a terrifying suction force pulled them into the giant human head's mouth, where they were quickly chewed. Why is this smell so weird? Did I eat a fake return-to-void stage life form? The human head chewed with a perplexed expression. At that moment, the dragon head suddenly opened its golden eyes, as if it could see through all the illusions in the world. Stupid C*NT, You really did eat a fake return to void stage mighty figure, the dragon head said. Crack. Rumble. A bolt of golden lightning shot out from the dragon's horn and struck somewhere in the void, causing a series of violent ripples. Ah! A figure appeared with a bloody hole in his abdomen. The figure that had appeared was none other than Shuang Yukong, who had been revived by the divine talisman of life. Shuang Yukong fled into the distance with a horrified expression. The enemy was too terrifying, too strong. Even Return to Void final stage mighty figures were unable to see through the divine talisman of life's spatial power, but it had been seen through with a single glance. The existence he was facing was far more powerful than him. As he was fleeing, the space around him suddenly turned into a boundless sea of fire. Shuang Yukong's expression changed drastically. He unleashed all the power of ice to defend himself, but the terrifying flames swept toward him with unstoppable force, instantly shattering his defenses and engulfing his body. Ah! The screams reverberated throughout the entire space, yet not in this space. Burp! The phoenix head suddenly burped as a satisfied smile appeared on its face. Bitch! How dare you use the devouring divine ability to steal my food? The dragon head was furious. Why are you scolding me? The human head asked with an aggrieved expression. Phoenix head. Stupid C*NT. The dragon head glared at the human head. Was I scolding you? The human head wore an aggrieved expression. B*TCH, aren't I the only one here? The phoenix head opened its eyes, which were like the sun, and said in a slow voice, You're not alone. That's right, I still have you. The human head said happily. No, I'm saying that you're not alone. The phoenix head said with a serious expression. The human head was confused. Idiot! The dragon head couldn't help but curse again. The human head wore an aggrieved expression. All right, stop arguing. The phoenix head's voice was neither too fast nor too slow, but it was as if it were the voice of a powerful being. In any case, you should be thanking me for helping you eat. Thank you, Brother Feng. The human head wore a grateful expression. The dragon head couldn't take it anymore. Idiot. Phoenix head. To the north of the Phoenix Research Institute was a gargantuan mountain. At the summit of the mountain, there was a place that resembled an immortal realm. Immortal clouds swirled around this place, and there were countless beautiful flowers in full bloom. At the center of a sea of flowers, there was a pristine white palace. It was enshrouded in rainbow light, isolating it from all other things. Are you sure that's the exit? Tina pointed at the rippling gate with a slender finger. Xiao Zhe replied with an expression that seemed to have seen through everything. Of course. That palace isn't very big, right? However, that gate is extremely large, and it's completely out of proportion. Also, what kind of gate would have spatial ripples flowing through it? Hence, the palace is fake, but the gate is real. It's a gate that connects the two worlds. Tina felt like this made a lot of sense. Furthermore, this mountain was clearly no ordinary mountain. If there was an extraordinary gate on an extraordinary mountain, then that gate had to be special. There was nothing wrong with this reasoning. I can sense that Master is nearby, but he's been isolated by something, so I can't sense his exact location. I feel like this gate must be the thing that's isolating our senses. Xiao Zhe analyzed. I have the same feeling as well. I can sense that Master is nearby, but I don't know where he is. I think he's probably waiting for us outside the gate. Tina grinned. After establishing a master-disciple contract and a beast-pet contract, they would be able to sense each other's auras and locations within a certain range. However, this type of detection was being isolated by some kind of mysterious power, which meant that there had to be some kind of barrier between them. This spatial gate was most likely that barrier. Then what are we waiting for? Break this barrier as hard as you can. Xiao Zhe encouraged. If Master can break this barrier and get out of here, then we can definitely do it too. All right. Tina's expression became grave as she began to gather energy. Boom, 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 in an instant, lightning exploded and holy light rumbled. The two returned to Void's stage mighty figures unleashed a relentless barrage of attacks upon the rainbow barrier of the White Palace, causing the sky to tumble and tumble as hundreds of smiley faces around them were pulverized by the fearsome power of their attacks. At the same time, within the White Palace, there was a black ball rotating at high speed. An exquisitely beautiful woman with the tail of a snake and the body of a human raised her eyebrows slightly. Which idiot was attacking her mansion's spell formation relentlessly? If it weren't for the fact that she still had to fight Bai Ling for control of this world, she would have already bashed those two kids into submission. That's right, she was Black Spirit Snake's true body. Her clone had seen Enlin before, and she had tried to trick Enlin into falling into her trap so that she could take the opportunity to steal his phoenix egg. However, not only did she lose the phoenix egg, but even the demonic baby who had been tasked with disrupting Bai Ling's rhythm was also subdued. If that were the case, then so be it. She still had the upper hand. However, there were suddenly two return to Void's stage mighty figures attacking her mansion. What was going on? Unfortunately, she had only created one clone before her battle with Bai Ling, and it had been blasted by Bai Ling. Now that this was a critical moment, there was no way for her to warn them. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. The two return to Void's stage mighty figures seemed to be very patient as they continued to bombard the barrier. Black Spirit Snake was enraged. What the F***ck was wrong with these two? Couldn't they see that this was a mansion? This was a personal territory. Master had even set up a Do Not Disturb spell formation. What the F***ck were those two nutjobs trying to do by bombing someone else's spell formation? This was an illegal disturbance. Did they know the law? However, unbeknownst to Black Spirit Snake, Tina and Xiao Zhe had already imagined the gate to the mansion to be the gate to the outside world. The two of them were fighting for their freedom. Chapter 731. Black Spirit Snake was very annoyed by them, but she knew that there was no way these Return to Void stage mighty figures, who had yet to attain the power of the divine Tao, would be able to break through her spell formation. They were just a little noisy, and the energy fluctuations were a little annoying. Break through the defenses of her mansion? No way. Outside the mansion, Tina and Xiao Zhe were finally getting tired after unleashing a relentless barrage of spell technique. They panted heavily as they swallowed a blood spirit pill. This can't do. Who would have thought that this barrier would be so powerful? Is this really the exit? Why would they use such a powerful barrier to block our way? It's not really just a house that's being protected, is it? Tina was sweating profusely, and she was already beginning to doubt the validity of Xiao Zhe's deduction. Even though Black Spirit Snake couldn't move, she could still hear the conversation going on outside. She was extremely touched by Tina's words. Thank God, one of them wasn't an idiot. Did they finally think of this? Did you know? Some mighty figures like to do this. Xiao Zhe spoke with a serious expression. They've lived for too long, and everything they do is boring. They want to trap a group of people in this world, then set up all types of monsters to deal with those people in order to amuse themselves. Mighty figures like them can't bear to see us leave, so they've blocked off the exit. Tina covered her mouth with her hand. What a freak. Black Spirit Snake's body swayed slightly, and she almost threw up a mouthful of blood. You're the freak. Your whole family is a freak. This wave of emotional stimulation caused even Black Spirit Snake's control over this world to falter, thereby allowing Bai Ling to hang on for a while longer. Black Spirit Snake couldn't help but curse in her heart upon realizing this. Tina paused momentarily before speaking in the end. I didn't want to use this technique, but I feel like I have to use my trump card now. We'll definitely be able to break through this turtle shell this time. A cold smile appeared on Black Spirit Snake's face as she thought to herself, with the power of these fairies and dragons, I'll be able to keep them at bay for another day and night. Tina turned to Xiao Zhe. After using this technique, I'll be completely exhausted. I'll be leaving Giant Unlin to you. Xiao Zhe nodded with a solemn expression. Don't worry, I'll protect Master. Speaking of which, do you really have a chance to break through this barrier? What can I do for you? To be honest, the toughness of this protective wall was beyond Xiao's capabilities. It was exactly because of this that he was skeptical about Tina's ability to break through the wall. Don't worry, this is the latest God-tier spell that I've come up with. It's called the Wall-Piercing Divine Finger. Tina's eyes shimmered with an ethereal light as she pointed a finger at the translucent rainbow spell formation. All of a sudden, the world seemed to have come to a standstill, leaving only a flickering finger. Black Spirit Snake's expression suddenly shifted drastically. This is Rumble. Golden light flooded the world, bringing with it a power that could pierce through a world. It was as if a golden sun had appeared on the gigantic mountain. Then, there was the sound of something shattering. A beam of golden light pierced through the sky, illuminating the entire world. The golden light dissipated, and the little fairy fell powerlessly into Xiao's arms. Xiao stared at the scene in front of him with his mouth agape, dumbfounded. Little Na, are you trying to *CK the heavens with that finger of yours? It's pretty powerful, right? The barrier has been broken, right? Tina forced herself to stay awake as she murmured to herself. Xiao nodded slowly. It has been broken. Tina heaved a sigh of relief. Not only has the barrier been broken, but the gate that connects the two worlds has also been broken by your finger. Xiao continued. Tina sat up with an expression of shock on her face. All of her drowsiness instantly vanished, and she turned around to look behind her. That's right, the rainbow barrier had already been shattered, and the massive gate had also been reduced to rubble by a single finger. What had also been reduced to rubble was the beautiful white palace. Then, a young lady in ragged clothes, who was touching a big black ball, was looking at him with a frosty expression. Tina. Xiaoza, why do I feel like we've made a mistake? She's such a beautiful big sister, but I can sense from her eyes that she wants to slice us into pieces. Tina spoke with difficulty. An awkward expression appeared on Xiao's face. I also feel like this is a beautiful misunderstanding, Black Spirit Snake. Xiao was struck by an indescribable sense of horror, and he immediately transformed into a dragon with Tina in his arms. Run! Boom! Black energy obscured the entire sky. Following the golden sun that had appeared on the mountain, now night had descended. Many of the cultivators scattered throughout the mystic realm looked up into the sky. Even though they were extremely far away, they could still sense a terrifying aura. And it seemed to be accompanied by the blood-curdling wails of dragons? The night faded, and a few comical faces could be seen hovering in the hazy sky. A gargantuan black dragon fell from the summit of a mountain, and countless bloodied scales rained down from its body. Xiao threw up a large mouthful of blood, and his body trembled uncontrollably as he looked up at the summit. He had truly experienced the feeling of death just then. If it weren't for the fact that there was something restricting that woman's power, he would have most likely died there. Xiao opened his palm, and he heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing Tina lying there unscathed. All in all, they had managed to survive. However, both of them were pretty much crippled, and they had to find a place to recover. Xiao continued to fly into the distance. No matter what, he was not going to get close to that mountain. The further, the better. Within a sealed space within the gargantuan mountain, Bai Ling was just about to put up a final resistance when she suddenly detected a peculiar energy fluctuation. There was an opening. She immediately grasped that moment of weakness and began to launch a fierce counterattack. Haha, I didn't think that Black Spirit Snake would make such a stupid mistake. Is she retarded? Bai Ling couldn't help but chortle with glee as she waved her slender hands through the air. Lin was quite curious upon seeing this. Did something happen to Black Spirit Snake? That's right. I don't know what's gotten into her, but she's suddenly foregoing all control over her body. Haha, could it be that her house exploded? Even though it was only for a split second, it was enough for me to turn the tables. Bai Ling spoke with a dainty smile. She was clearly in a good mood. A joyful smile also appeared on Enlin's face. He had only met Black Spirit Snake once, so he was naturally more inclined toward Bai Ling. He was genuinely happy that Bai Ling had a chance of becoming the ruler of this world. Black Spirit Snake definitely wouldn't make such a huge move for no reason. Something must have happened in the outside world. Bai Ling spoke in a more objective manner this time. Perhaps this is fate? Enlin chuckled. No matter who did this, I just have to say, well done. What a godly assist. Chapter 732. Black Spirit Snake was so depressed that she was about to throw up blood. Never would she have thought that the defenses of her mansion would really be broken, and even her mansion would be reduced to rubble. Even her clothes had been torn to shreds. How the F***ck was she supposed to tolerate this? Those two nut jobs had to die. Even though there were important matters that she had to attend to, she still attacked those two nut jobs in a fit of rage. However, the consequences of this were extremely severe. Even a split second of carelessness could change the course of the battle. Right now, she was on the back foot in her battle against Bai Ling. Black Spirit Snake was so depressed. Why the F***ck did these two nut jobs suddenly appear? That little fairy had even mentioned Giant Enlin. Were they sent by Enlin? Enlin. I'll remember this. Black Spirit Snake gritted her teeth as she spoke with a frosty expression that was as cold as the glaciers that had been frozen for ages. Within the Bronze Gate, Enlin had already recovered from his injuries, and he lent the coffin to Dong Guo to treat his injuries again. It had to be said that Enlin's recovery rate was extremely terrifying with the help of an immortal pill, an immortal tool, and his body of the war god. Enlin, I can control most of the things in the Research Institute now. There are 3 Return to Void stage mighty figures waiting for you outside the Bronze Gate, so you have to be careful, Bai Ling cautioned. Enlin sat down with his legs crossed. That's all right. We'll go out together after you're done, and then we'll slaughter those arrogant B***stards outside. Bai Ling's eyes narrowed with a smile. You sure are a pushover. How are you so sure that I'll help you beat them up? Of course, what kind of friendship do we have? We're comrades who have gone through life and death situations together. Enlin replied with a nonchalant expression. Hee, you sure know how to suck up to me. A smile appeared on Bai Ling's face as she continued. Have you repaired that Gundam you snatched from Black Spirit Snake? No, I don't have any more spirit stones in my storage ring. Only then did Enlin recall that the pitiful Gundam 3 was still lying in his storage ring in tatters without any spirit stones to repair itself. Weren't you quite rich in the past? Bai Ling was a little surprised to see Enlin. Enlin sighed. They've all been converted into fixed asset. He turned to Dong Guo as he spoke, and a sinister smile appeared on his face. What are you doing? Dong Guo was extremely flustered. Enlin made his way over to the coffin and placed his hands on the coffin lid as he looked into Dong Guo's eyes. I, Enlin, want to borrow money. Dong Guo. In the face of Enlin's tyranny, Dong Guo had to offer up his spirit stones with tears streaming down his face. He was extremely flustered. Was Enlin going to return the money he borrowed? Enlin was so rich, he should be able to pay it back unknowingly. 2 hours had passed. Dong Guo had also returned to full health, and the 3 of them silently awaited Bai Ling's victory. Outside the Bronze Gate, the 3 Return to Void stage mighty figures were surprisingly patient, and they still stood there in silence. On the plateau to the west of the Mystic Realm, Su Wenjun flew toward the Gargantuan Mountain with Lu Qianhuan and Su Qianyun in tow. To the northeast of the Mystic Realm, General Long Kuei wielded her golden spear and transformed into a streak of golden light as she chased after the heavenly demon sex Taoist Yulang. Ms. Long Kuei, that immortal herb is yours, and I'm not taking it anymore, so why are you still chasing me? Taoist Yulang was in an extremely sorry state as he spoke to the ferocious woman in front of him. Humph. The heavenly demon sect has committed all sorts of evil deeds in the Purple Star State, so I'm here to kill you and rid the heavenly demon sect of its scourge. Long Kuei's voice was clear as she waved her golden spear through the air, and a series of golden dragons roared with rage as they flew toward Taoist Yulang. Taoist Yulang cursed as he unleashed his movement techniques in a frenzy of evasion. He wasn't a match for Long Kuei in battle, but he was very confident in his ability to escape. What was the most important thing for a demonic cultivator? It wasn't violence or cruelty, nor was it the ability to escape. Instead, it was the ability to escape. After all, demonic cultivators who had the ability to commit evil deeds but not the ability to escape were doomed sooner or later. As such, escaping was a compulsory skill for all demonic cultivators. Taoist Yulang had been committing evil deeds for over 10,000 years, and his ability to escape was top-tier even among return-to-void stage mighty figures. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to survive for so long. There's a huge mountain up ahead. That's a good place to conceal my aura. I'll use a mystic technique to increase my speed and temporarily open up some distance before concealing my aura and hiding in the mountain. That way, Long Kuei won't be able to find me. Taoist Yulang made up his mind, and he began to accelerate toward the huge mountain. At the summit of the huge mountain, Black Spirit Snake seemed to have detected some kind of peculiar energy fluctuation. Her brows perked up slightly as she used her limited authority to peer into the mountain. Not long after that, her expression shifted drastically, and she immediately transmitted a message to Bai Ling. Within the bronze gate, a peculiar expression appeared on Bai Ling's face upon receiving this message. "What is it?" Anlin asked upon seeing the peculiar expression on Bai Ling's face. "Black Spirit Snake wants me to relinquish control of this world to her. She says she has something urgent to take care of," Bai Ling replied. Anlin's lips twitched. Could it be that she knows she's about to lose, so she's trying to regain control of this world through this method? Bai Ling shook her head. She says she concedes. However, we have to let her use this authority for a while first. Do you trust her? Anlin asked. This was only a verbal promise, so if Black Spirit Snake went back on her word, Bai Ling wouldn't be able to retaliate. Bai Ling clearly hesitated momentarily before receiving another short message. Urgent, 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 urgent. Give up control of this world, trust me. Sigh. Bai Ling heaved a faint sigh. So be it, I'll trust her. She put down her hands from the white ball and removed the blue barrier of light. The white sphere's light dimmed, and everything returned to silence. Bai Ling leaped down from the floating rock as a vibrant smile appeared on her face. Let's go, Anlin. Anlin didn't say anything as he followed Bai Ling out the door. Thump! Anlin's heart suddenly thumped violently, as if it had been struck by some kind of indescribable force. Immediately afterward, rumble! The mountain suddenly began to tremor violently. This was no longer a simple earthquake. This was the quaking of mountains and rivers toppling over, as if the entire mountain was going to be torn to shreds. Look out! Bai Ling turned around before unleashing a white light that enshrouded Anlin, Donghua, and Dabai within. Boom! A streak of black light sliced through heaven and earth, slicing the gargantuan mountain in half. Immediately afterward, a rainbow energy suddenly erupted from within the mountain. It was like a divine light of annihilation as it swept through the world, destroying everything in its path. The gargantuan mountain began to crumble in the face of this terrifying power. Roar! What? That was awesome, ha. 3 different voices reverberated between heaven and earth. Chapter 733. The gargantuan mountain crumbled into pieces, and a monster with an extremely terrifying aura leaped out from the center of the mountain. This was a monster with 3 heads and 6 arms, and it had a pair of huge bony wings on its back as it soared through the air. The almost indestructible sealed metal space was blasted open by a certain force. Bai Ling held a white ball in her hand, and a halo of light enshrouded Lin and the others as they flew toward the foot of the mountain. Fei Ying, Bai Pengzi, and Duan Hunzi were in quite a sorry state. There was a gash on Fei Ying's pretty face, and there were also a few gashes on her waist and legs, giving her a very disheveled appearance. One of Bai Pengzi's arms had even been obliterated by the explosion, and he didn't even have time to react. One of Duan Hunzi's legs had also been crippled, and he sat on his comical face as he fled into the distance. The three-headed monster was only standing in midair, but its aura made all of the Return to Void stage mighty figures feel like they were suffocating. Phew, ha ha! The air outside is so fresh. The human head chortled with glee. After being trapped for 10,000 years, we can finally come out. Who would have thought that the seal would suddenly become so weak, and we have delicious food to replenish our energy. The dragon head sighed with emotion. This is the will of the heavens. I have to come out when I have to, the phoenix head said in a slow voice. The human head looked at all of the fleeing mighty figures with a scorching light in its eyes. Is it also the will of the heavens for those Return to Void stage mighty figures to appear before us? Of course. The phoenix head nodded. Boom. Heaven and earth rumbled as the space within a radius of 150 kilometers was instantly sealed. The phoenix head opened its eyes, which were like miniature suns, and a golden barrier instantly enshrouded an area within a radius of over 50 kilometers, trapping all of the living beings within it. Fei Ying, Bai Pengzi, and Duan Hunzi were all dumbstruck. What kind of experience was it to be targeted by an indescribably terrifying being? All three of their bodies had turned to jelly. Su Wenjun and the others who had just arrived near the mountain were also dumbfounded. Su Qianyun's body shuddered slightly as she spoke in a mellow voice. It looks like we came at a bad time? She took a deep breath. We've only just left the novice village, and you're already giving me a max-level boss? Play your sister. Taoist Yulang, who was being pursued by Long Kuei, was also dumbstruck. Didn't they say they were going to escape into the mountains? Damn it, even the mountains have been blown up. Escape my ass. Also, what was up with that monster with an extremely terrifying aura? Why is it smiling at me? Taoist Yulang felt like he had fallen into a wolf's den before he had even escaped from the tiger's den. This situation was terrifying. Long Kuei faltered slightly at the sight of the three-headed, six-armed monster before giving up on her pursuit of Taoist Yulang and fleeing in another direction. She cursed endlessly in her heart. King Rainwolf, I've been chasing you all this way, but you've led me into a tiger's den? Fate was such a wonderful thing. A group of mighty beings happened to be near the huge mountain, and then they were trapped in a space with a radius of 300 miles by that terrifying monster with a barrier, becoming its meal. Su Wenjun gathered all of his power into a single point and blasted it at the golden barrier. However, it only caused a slight ripple and showed no signs of cracking. He was in despair. Was this King spell technique unleashed by a Return to Void stage mighty figure? Could it be a Dao integration stage mighty figure? Bai Ling led Lin to the foot of the mountain before unleashing a spell technique to conceal their auras. Perhaps it was due to the fact that her spell technique was quite advanced, but the monster did not notice them. Holy CK. 3 heads and 6 arms? Is this our hero little Naja? And Lin was astonished. Bai Ling rolled her eyes. You're still in the mood to joke around at a time like this? Speaking of which, did Black Spirit Snake ask for your authority just so she could release this monster? And Lin asked. Bai Ling. Alright, she's probably trying to suppress this monster, right? But why isn't she doing anything now? Did you just give her authority for nothing? And Lin asked. She's most likely preparing some kind of spell technique. Bai Ling paused momentarily before replying to Lin's question. I have some recollection of this monster. It's a failed Tao integration stage creature, known as the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. It was created by fusing the bloodlines of a phoenix mythological beast, a Tao integration stage true dragon, and a true god, and by seizing the Tao of heaven and earth. Unfortunately, the experiment to create this Tao integration stage creature failed, and it went on a rampage, which was why it was sealed here by the purple star. Gasp! Dongwu drew a sharp intake of breath and he stammered, "They can even create Tao integration stage creatures?" Anlin and Dabai faltered slightly upon hearing this. Anlin spoke with a hesitant expression, "I recall that Shin Yin once encountered a failed Tao integration stage creature, the Godfian Celestial of the Six Paths. Oh, that's part of the Purple Star's dark history. I'm so sorry for bringing disaster to this continent." Sigh. A hint of shame appeared on Bai Ling's face as she heaved a forlorn sigh. Waves of shock surged through Anlin and the others' hearts upon hearing this. Wasn't the Purple Star civilization a little too terrifying? Just a failed product had almost destroyed the Dragon Court. Now another one had appeared? Just how many of these monsters were out there? Bai Ling continued, "Black Spirit Snake is a Tao integration stage super mighty figure to begin with. She doesn't want to subdue the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial through brute force. She clearly wants to use her authority to seal the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial into a mountain so that she can continue her research." Anlin scratched his head. "This world is going to be yours from now on, so how is she going to continue her research on the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial?" Bai Ling slammed her fist into her palm with a blank expression. "That's right, what is she going to do?" "Anlin, Bai Ling, is there something wrong?" Bai Ling was a little aggrieved. "It's all right, big sister Bai. I feel like Black Spirit Snake will keep her promise." Anlin offered words of consolation. However, any consolation was completely useless in the face of such a dire situation. Even Anlin didn't believe her own words of consolation. A black figure slowly appeared in the extremely high heavens above. Black Spirit Snake wore a golden crown on her head, and her features were cold and aloof. Her eyes were inky black, as if they were two bottomless pits. She extended a pristine, white arm into the air, and a massive golden sword was slowly pulled out from her grasp amid a burst of ripples. This was the divine tool, the realm creation evil vanquishing sword. It'll take some time to activate this divine tool. I hope you can hold on. She spoke in a soft voice as she turned toward Bai Ling. Her lips parted, and a series of enchanting syllables erupted from her mouth, reverberating through the air like celestial music. The massive sword slowly began to crack open, and the cracks appeared to be some kind of peculiar beauty. Huh? That human has an aura that I'm interested in. It's the aura of darkness. The human head's crimson eyes lit up as it chuckled at the fleeing Taoist Yu Lang. Chapter 734. Taoist Yu Lang was scared ***. He didn't think that he would become the first target of such a powerful being. He fled for his life with all his might, but the two massive crimson eyes behind him were like the eyes of the Grim Reaper, and they had already determined that he was going to die. Taoist Yu Lang couldn't take it anymore. He turned around and landed on the ground like a ferocious tiger. Splat! He sprawled onto the ground as he yelled, "Senior! I didn't mean to offend you, please spare me. I'm willing to pledge my life to you. I'll do anything you want me to do." That's right, he had realized that he was going to die for sure. Evil cultivators had a second life-saving ability, which was to become their enemy's lackey. Since such a powerful super being was born, there should at least be some henchmen around to keep up appearances, right? At the very least, a super mighty figure didn't need to do things like stomping ants to death. That would be beneath them, so they could just leave that to their lackeys. Hence, it was a must to recruit a few lackeys. Taoist Yu Lang was a return-to-void stage mighty figure, and he was the first lackey of this super mighty figure, so he would definitely be treated better, right? Perhaps he would even be more impressive than before. Sure enough, the three-headed, six-armed monster's body faltered slightly. Huh? He wants to be our lackey. What do you think? The human head asked. Taoist Yulang was ecstatic. There was a chance for him to survive. The dragon head replied expressionlessly, Him? He's too weak. It would be beneath us to use a weakling like him. Taoist Yulang almost threw up a mouthful of blood. I'm weak? Becoming your lackey would be beneath us? Who do you think you are? The phoenix head asked in a calm voice, What's a lackey? Is it edible? The human head scratched its head with its sword before replying hesitantly, It should be edible. Even though my identity has changed, the life essence of a return-to-void stage mighty figure is still present. Stupid C****. The dragon head snapped. Taoist Yulang's body trembled with fear. Alright, you can be my lackey. The human head chuckled. Overjoyed, Taoist Yulang hurriedly bowed once more and said, I, Taoist Yulang, will do anything for you. The human head nodded with elation. Then the first thing is for you to fly into my mouth and eat me. I'm a little hungry. After saying that, the scarlet eyes on the giant head shone with a demonic light, and a complacent expression appeared on its face. What do you think? I'm very smart, aren't I? I made him our underling first, then ordered him to become our food. That way, we'll be able to eat a return-to-void stage mighty figure without any effort. The human head chuckled. Taoist Yulang, the dragon head, idiot! The phoenix head heaved a faint sigh. Let's eat more brains next time. Taoist Yulang was scared out of his wits, and he immediately turned around to flee. Wolf claws appeared on his hands and feet, and he clung to the ground like a wolf as he fled, covering a distance of 5 kilometers with each step he took. Secret skill, heavenly wolf steps. The human head was enraged upon seeing this. Hey, didn't you say you'd be willing to go through fire and water and die 1,000 deaths as my underling? How come you can't even die once after being eaten by us? You're not keeping your word. Taoist Yulang cursed loudly when he heard this. Die 1,000 deaths? People could only die once. Was this B** starred a stupid C** and T? Stupid C** and T, the dragon head cursed. Taoist Yulang's lips twitched. However, in the next instant, he was greeted by the sight of boundless flames sweeping toward him. The vast space between heaven and earth was instantly transformed into a perilous realm. This was a perilous realm of flames with no way out. Flames with no end in sight, energy with no limit in sight from the perspective of Enlin and the others. The phoenix head turned toward the fleeing Taoist Yulang before exhaling gently. A wisp of golden flames grew larger and larger before piercing through the air and enshrouding Taoist Yulang. In the next instant, Taoist Yulang disappeared. However, Taoist Yulang's blood-curdling cries erupted from the Holy Trinity Fien Celestial's stomach. His cries were extremely anguished and made everyone's hearts clench involuntarily. Soon, the cries died down. He had probably died. All of the mighty figures present felt their legs give out from under them as their hearts trembled with fear. One had to realize that they were about as powerful as Taoist Yulang, yet Taoist Yulang had been insta-killed just like that. How could they fare? This is the power of the divine Tao. It's the perfect fusion of the Tao of fire and the Tao of space. Su Wenjun's voice trembled as he spoke. Burp! The phoenix head burped. You again. You're stealing my food again. The human head turned to the phoenix head with an aggrieved expression. How could you say that? I'm helping you eat. Don't forget that we share the same stomach and the same dream. The phoenix head spoke in a slow voice. Hurry up and thank me. Thank you. The human head seemed to have come to its senses again as it expressed its gratitude. Stupid. The dragon head was just about to let loose a torrent of abuse when its eyes suddenly turned toward a certain direction as a sinister smile appeared on its face. So many beautiful chicks. I want them all. The human head turned toward the direction that the dragon head was looking, and an excited smile appeared on its face. I want to eat them too! Stupid C****. The dragon head flared up with rage. I want to make them my harem. How filthy! The phoenix head spoke expressionlessly. Your bodies aren't suitable. Humph, I'm a pure and innocent little dragon. The dragon head harumphed coldly. I just want to make them ornamental objects. What are you thinking? Unlin couldn't help but fly toward a certain direction upon seeing this. Unlin, don't do anything rash. We're no match for the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. Bai Ling yelled in a panicked voice. I can't abandon my friends. Unlin's reply was very firm. He had no choice as the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial was targeting Su Qianyun and the others. Su Qianyun and Lu Qianhuan were being protected by Su Wenjun, and the armored female general was also there, but how many attacks would they be able to withstand from the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial? Unlin didn't want to see them die right under his nose. He didn't know where to go, but it was better than doing nothing. Su Qianyun and Lu Qianhuan's faces paled slightly at the sight of the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial turning toward them. Even Su Wenjun and Long Kuei were given quite a fright, and their breathing faltered slightly. There was simply too much of a difference in power, so it was impossible for them to not be scared. If they were evenly matched, or if they were slightly more powerful, then they might be able to put up a fight. However, after reaching a certain level of power, all that was left was fear and despair. I only know how to cook and eat. I can't capture people, the phoenix head said in a slow voice. Hee, then I'll do it. The human head chuckled. Piss off. That's my prey. I'll do it. The dragon head's golden eyes focused on Su Wenjun, and a paramount dragon might instantly proliferated outward, making the space around it extremely viscous. Whoosh! The Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial flapped its skeletal wings and quickly flew toward Su Qianyun and the others. Chapter 735. Fei Ying, Bai Pengzi, and Duan Hunzi were almost moved to tears upon seeing that they weren't the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial's next target. They knew that it was going to be their turn soon, so they had to find an opportunity to escape in this short amount of time. Fight the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial? That was impossible. To them, that was no different from committing suicide. The three of them had switched from being competitors to partners, and they combined their powers to attack the spatial seal before them. Boom, boom, boom. The golden barrier was like a gargantuan divine mountain in the face of their combined attacks. An expression of despair appeared on Fei Ying's face as she turned toward the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial, only to find that it had already reached Su Wenjun. This battle was most likely going to end very soon, and they were all going to become food for that terrifying monster. Listen to me, little beauty, and don't resist. Otherwise, it'll hurt. A perverted smile appeared on the dragon's face as it opened its massive, sharp mouth, from which a dark blue breath blasted forth, freezing the space in its wake. It was clearly trying to turn everyone in its path into ice sculptures. The dark blue breath swept forth like a surging river. Su Wenjun, Long Kuei, Lu Qianhuan, and Su Qianyun could only fight to the death as they faced the terrifying breath at the same time. Su Wenjun bit down on the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. At the same time, he slit his own artery, from which blood gushed forth, clearly indicating that he was going to use a mystic technique that required a heavy price. Long Kuei let loose an almighty roar as her golden spear shot forth like a dragon. A golden spear projection tore through the air and pierced through heaven and earth with unstoppable might. Lu Qianhuan unleashed her great ice sword, which transformed heaven and earth into frost as a blue sword projection swept through the air. Su Qianyun tossed out a blood talisman. This was a life-saving talisman that Chang Yi had refined for her. Moonlight instantly surged between heaven and earth, obscuring the entire sky, leaving only a single full moon hanging in the sky. A woman in a palatial dress with a set of features that were indistinguishable but still struck everyone with a sense of peerless beauty as she pointed a finger at the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial. The deep blue breath surged forward like a long river, first colliding with the golden spear light. The collision of energy caused the void within a radius of thousands of feet to collapse. In the end, the spear light collapsed, and the power of the breath was weakened. Then, the blue breath collided with the extremely cold sword ray, stirring up 1,000 piles of snow. The breath actually seemed to freeze. One had to know that the breath was also of the cold attribute. However, the dark blue river continued to surge forward with unstoppable force. In the end, Lu Qianhuan's sword projection was still vanquished. The power of the blue breath was weakened once again. At this moment, Su Wenjun let out a loud roar and unleashed a true secret technique. A red ball that fluctuated in size and size appeared in his hands, and he tossed it towards the oncoming breath. When the red ball collided with the breath, it exploded. Rumble! It was an explosion that shook the heavens and the earth. The red energy exploded, causing space to distort and shatter. Mountains and rivers to collapse. The shock wave of the explosion spread out in all directions in a ring shape, instantly turning everything within a radius of several dozen miles into dust. The blue breath was also completely destroyed at this moment. Under the moonlight, the power of the moon transformed into a pristine white energy that pierced through the air toward the dragon head like a spear or a sword. The dragon head reacted extremely quickly and evaded the terrifying attack in the blink of an eye, allowing the power of the moon to brush past its face. And then, the human head's head was blasted apart by the power of the moon. Ah! The human head wailed in anguish as blood splattered everywhere, leaving a bloody hole in its head. Celestial Maiden Fei Ying, Bai Pengzi, and Duan Hunzi were all dumbstruck upon seeing this. They managed to block that monster's attack? Bai Pengzi murmured. Not only that, but they also wounded that monster? Fei Ying's eyes widened in shock. Gasp! That's impressive! Duan Hunzi couldn't help but exclaim. The three of them who had been scared shitless by the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial finally felt a glimmer of hope upon seeing this. So the Holy Trinity Fiend Celestial wasn't invincible. Its attacks could be blocked, but it could still be wounded. My head. It hurts. The human head shook its head from side to side. Why am I always the one getting hurt? Wah! Stupid C***T, why didn't you dodge? The dragon head snapped. Then why did you dodge, Big Brother Dragon? The human head burst into tears. I'd be safe if you didn't dodge. Phoenix head. The dragon head. Stupid C***T. Tears welled up in the human head's crimson eyes, and it was hard to tell whether it was crying from pain or indignation. It turned toward Su Qianyun and the others with a vicious expression. Big Brother Dragon, I don't care what you say, I'm going to eat all of them. I can't take this anymore. The dragon head heaved a forlorn sigh. Do whatever you want. I also feel like I was a little too gentle just then, and I ended up bleeding from your head as well, so I can't take it anymore. I was waiting for you to say that, Big Brother Dragon. The human head laughed heartily as it extended one of its huge white sword-wielding arms. You little sh**ts, be obedient and become nourishment for my god-devouring sword. It then stabbed its sword towards Su Wenjun and the others as it spoke. Whoosh! In that instant, heaven and earth were reduced to black and white in everyone's eyes. Only the dazzling rainbow light emanating from the sword projection surged toward everyone in the distance. It's a Tao integration stage spiritual attack. It's over. It's really over. Su Wenjun's features were deathly pale with despair. A Tao integration stage spiritual attack was different from a normal spiritual attack. It could fuse its own Tao into its spiritual attack, thereby allowing it to crush everything with the power of its Tao realm. A spiritual attack of this level was something that not even 10 or 100 Return to Void stage mighty figures would be able to defend against, as it was fundamentally different. It was like a collision between a rock and a piece of tofu. Su Wenjun and the others had already unleashed their trump cards, so there was no way they would be able to defend against the Holy Trinity Fien Celestial's full-force attack. The dazzling rainbow light hurtled through the air, and a sense of crushing pressure crashed into their hearts, rendering them completely unable to muster up any thoughts of resistance. Just as everyone was in despair, a familiar figure appeared before them again. Su Qianyun and Lu Qianhuan were far too familiar with this figure, and they felt like they were in a dream as their hearts thumped in their throat. Then, the man took out a mirror and blocked the rainbow-colored light that dimmed the world in front of him. The mirror strangely absorbed the rainbow-colored light, and then sprayed it out from the mirror. Boom! The rainbow light flashed through the air before sweeping toward the phoenix head. The phoenix head twisted its neck, and its body swayed to evade the rainbow light in the nick of time. Then, the rainbow light collided with the dumbfounded humanoid head, and with a soul-destroying power, it fused into the giant head. Ah, the human head howled in agony. "Why is it me again?"